Hello and welcome to the 9-panel world of Comic Book Chronicles. Bust that one out in a minute. I am your host, Roddykat, and you can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram.
Columbia down the way.
And sound effects you have just heard come from none other than our man in Brooklyn, who I can safely say is thankfully not swimming.
Yes.
This weekend. Want to hope that everybody that up that way, staying safe. One agent _70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody?
So yeah, I guess I have a difficulty. Yeah, so we could actually take note about that. How is things up there for you? I know you're kind of not in the city, or
Well,
you are,
throughout
but
the five boroughs, right? I am in
yeah,
the city because I'm not technically in one of the suburbs of the
right.
city. I'm in the urban suburb of Brooklyn, New York, and we definitely had our share of flooding issues. Not nearly as bad as the borough of Queens, though,
Yes.
because there are some lower lying areas in Queens that had some tremendous issues with flooding. They have issues with flooding when it rains relatively hard, but when you get whatever it was, like 7 inches in an hour or something ridiculous like that, there's no way you can get away from flooding. I was very fortunate to actually not be in the city um, on Wednesday during the deluge because in the aftermath of Hurricane Ida, because I was at families. I was at a family house in upstate New York. So I was not in New York City when all that happened. I had to come down the next day, though. So I did encounter some of the delays trying to get back into the city because, you know, roads were flooded. More people had to drive because some of the Metro North trains have been taken out. The tracks have been like covered in like multiple feet of mud. So it was pretty. It's going to still be a pretty long cleanup. I think a lot of neighborhoods were spared the worst, but the ones that really couldn't afford to be spared probably got hit the hardest. And what I mean by that are the neighborhoods that suffer from flooding ordinarily.
Gotcha. Hopefully, thankfully, things to everybody. At least there are a couple of people that I've checked up on are doing all right. So hopefully everybody else is doing well. I've definitely seen some TikToks from Queens and like subways and whatnot. It's like, wow, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and what's funny is that um, I want to say the last time we saw the subways flood like this was on the eve of another Marvel movie that I went to watch, which was Black Widow. We had a night where the subways were flooding um, right around that time that we went to watch it, and it was kind of wild that it's literally what, like a month and a half, not quite 2 months later, maybe just a little bit more, and it's another historic subway flooding event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You know,
indeed.
climate change is real, people.
There it is, and that is, if there's not a takeaway that you get from that, that is definitely one for real,
Yep.
for real.
Yep.
So, but this is not the Climb app that I keep seeing advertisements for. This is the Comic Book Chronicles, and you can find this Comic Book Chronicles on the Coast of the Podcast Network. That's cspn.us.
Do it today. Where's my cash? Where's my cash register?
Lord, somebody stole the cash register.
Seriously.
You can also find this here podcast on your podcast personal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coastal of the Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. Which, by the way, folks, for those who were wondering where the last episode is, it should be out there now, and partially because I made a boo boo. I must have been tired as whatever. Sent the wrong link, which luckily they didn't put it up. But yeah, it is. Oh
It's up
wait,
there. I think it's up there.
yeah, it should be. I don't. Might not. They might not have tweeted about it, but at any rate, it's out there, so you can go check that out while you're checking us. And yes, we are recording a day later than we normally would be because of the fact that Agent underscore 70 went to go see Shang-Chi on on the Thursday night we normally record. So here
Right.
he is now
Opening
with
night.
some
Right.
quick
Opening night
impressions.
slash preview night. Not everybody goes Thursday night, but for those of us who can't bear any kind of spoilers once the movie comes out, we gun for Thursday night. So it does interfere with our podcasting. That's why we have to go into movie protocols. But hey, we're here a day later, but not a dollar short.
Absolutely, absolutely. So um I haven't seen it yet, so we are not going to go into spoiler territory or even talk that much about it because of that. But we can definitely get some quick impressions from Agent 70.
I enjoyed it. At the end of the day, I think the fight scenes were what carried the film, what carried the day for the film, and I think the best acting was by Tony Leung,
Of course.
which is not a big surprise at all in this.
Hell no.
Uh, Michelle Yeoh does an admirable second role in the MCU now, which is great because now she's now she has a more fleshed out role for hopefully future films. But yeah, Tony Leung is he's that boy's acting his ass off.
Yeah,
Seriously,
as he tends to do.
right? Seriously, like he really does an excellent job in this movie. Nothing against Simu Liu, but every hero is essentially defined by having a good villain, and uh, uh, Tony Leung, does a masterful job in that role.
hmm I can't wait to see. It was like, especially when I found out them two were in it. I was like, you know what, this movie that much better. You know,
Right, the
that
legitimacy
exactly have a
level
couple of
goes up 10
powerhouses.
notches.
Exactly, have a couple of powerhouses like them, and it got to be worth something. So that
Absolutely.
being that being the case, though, like I said, hopefully by next week I will have seen the movie one way, shape, or form, and we will have some proper talk about the movie. But until then, we're going to talk about comic book stuff this week, starting off with what if episode number 4 from this past Wednesday.
And the episode is titled "What if Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands?" And this is a what if episode that explores a reality where Doctor Strange goes down a very much darker path than what we saw in the MCU proper, in the what's the primary timeline called in
The Oh,
Loki?
Loki, the sacred timeline.
The sacred timeline. Thank
hmm
you. So yes, as what for what we know as the sacred timeline of Doctor Strange's story, the triggering event of him going through the effort to become the master of the mystic arts starts with uh, him losing the ability to use his hands to the extent that he could before, which made him a world-renowned surgeon. And now in this case, what he loses instead is his quote unquote heart. Now, he doesn't get stabbed through the heart. He doesn't have his heart taken out of him like it was a fatality in Mortal Kombat. But it
Or
is
like it was Iron Man and he gets shrapnel through it or something.
right. It is much more of a figurative loss of his heart.
Which, so going into it and seeing the title of it beforehand, I was sitting here like, what do they even mean? Because I went straight to the okay, he's gonna have an Iron Man type, shrapnel through the heart thing. Because that was the only thing that would, as far as I could think about, would fit
Right.
into anything that happened in Doctor Strange's first movie, and even the leap that they took in this, like I told Agent 70 prior to the show, still didn't really ring true because, as we were about to kind of talk about just briefly, there was no legwork for that, or not much of a legwork for this to even be the case. But as we have seen, as Agent 70 pointed out with the last episode of What If, like yeah, they kind of go a little another they add another little bend to it. Which actually, I will go ahead and say this right now before I forget about it. I feel like there's an event that happens later in this episode that I kind of wonder um whether there was a little bit more interfering in the court in the proceedings than what we what well most folks that don't know about a certain character that shows that is pretty much the main character in these what ifs would play. Like I kind of wonder about that, or at least comic wise anyway. And I'll try to get to that in a minute if I remember about it. Because basically, the Watcher's narrating. He don't necessarily does anything in it because he's the Watcher. All he does is supposedly watch, but in the comics, he has interfered a few different times
Right.
during the course of
And he
comic
actually
history.
right, and he actually has spoken to some of the active characters in What If stories before. Also, what we find is that, at least my experience has been
Wait,
in the What If stories that I've read, certain characters who are of a certain power level tend to interact with the Watcher in those stories more so than your street level character.
correct, or a certain
You know,
sensitivity to such.
right? Or intelligence, like a Reed Richards. Like if Reed is in a What If and the Watcher's nearby, he's actually going to know enough to speak to the Watcher. So ultimately, what we have, as Roddykat mentioned, is an Uatu who is um, not actively participating, but is a participant nonetheless.
Right, more than we've seen in these prior episodes. Which, like I said, I have a slight theory about that going with that in mind, but we'll pretty much get into the strokes of it. So yeah, as we said, Doctor Strange loses his heart, uh, which again, I don't know. So he
I was about to say
loses.
spoilers
Yes.
incoming in 3, 2, 1. Spoiler alert for episode 4. What if you are forewarned after this?
So if you've seen Doctor Strange the movie, he goes to an award ceremony. He's driving by himself when he gets into the crash that takes his hands. In this reality, uh Dr. Christine Palmer says yes to him and goes with him, and she is the one that gets that dies the course of the crash, as opposed to him, or as opposed to the loss of his hands.
Right. So
So
ultimately, the premise of this turns on the fact that Christine Palmer, I guess, and the best that we could come up with is the fact that, to this point, Doctor Strange has not been the big prick that we knew him to be in the Sacred Timeline version.
exactly.
Instead, he was actually able to cultivate a good relationship with Christine Palmer.
Hmm.
So ultimately, that's where, going backwards from the point, it's not just a turn at the point of, kind of like the first episode was. The turn was um the fact that uh, Dr. Reinstein, uh,
Erskine.
right, but Reinstein is his code name, right?
Oh, right.
So Dr. Reinstein, I was going to say Dr. Erskine also, but Reinstein is his code name, right?
Uh-huh.
So the fact is, the triggering event is that he allows Agent Carter to stand on the lab floor as opposed to going into the observation room. So
Or she makes the choice to stand on
no,
the.
no. He she wanted to stand. She wanted to come down in
Right.
the movie, the Sacred Timeline, right? But Oh no, she wanted to stay there, but the Dr. Erskine said you guys need to go up.
Oh, that's right.
So
Yeah, you would be more
right. So
comfortable
what's
upstate. Yeah,
implied,
that's
right? So
right.
what's implied is that because Sharon Carter, not Sharon Carter,
Peggy.
Peggy, because Peggy decides to stay down, that's why the Hydra Saboteur is also on the floor and is able to get a clearer shot at stopping the experiment, taking a shot at Steve Rogers and all that stuff, right? Whereas in the Sacred Timeline, they're all up in the observation room, so they're just stuck, and he's not able to get a clean opportunity to interrupt the process, right?
Right. Well, that's the
In
first one.
this
Yes.
case, right, but the point is, in this case, the one step before the real change in trajectory for the characters is that to this point, prior to this point of the accident, Doctor Strange has actually been not as bad a person. He's
Right.
been
Presumably.
just as an advanced surgeon. No, but we have to presume that he's not as much of a prick. Pardon my fruity language, but we have to assume that he's not that bad because Dr. Christine Palmer, who we find out is actually still voiced by Rachel McAdams in the credits, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
She's actually into him, like much more into him than when we first see her in the movie, in the Sacred Timeline movie, where she's talking about, you're only into yourself or something like that. She makes some comment.
Right.
So ultimately, we're dealing with a very different Doctor Strange at this point in time when when they undergo this particular accident.
Right. So that lends itself to go on to, okay, so the feelings that again never really bore out in the movies was a little more cut and dry and more clearer than what we saw. Because like I said, the movie did no legwork to even get into that point. To even get into that point, even within the confines of the movie, like yes, you could tell there was something there, but even then it was like, no, it wasn't nothing. There was no spark there. There was just like, okay, sure, there was like some glances, some throwaway stuff, even while he was whatever, but nothing to the point of saying like, yeah, this was something that would really happen.
Yeah,
Anyway.
but it's also post breakup, so it's kind of tough. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they had kind of already started to break it off. At least a while before we see Stephen Strange in the Sacred Timeline movie. So that's the counterpoint to that.
Right.
So be that as it may, at the end of the day, what we have here in this What If episode is what if Stephen Strange is searching for the classic cure to be found with the aid of the mystic arts that is bringing the dead back to life.
Right. And you see some familiar beats from the movie, him turning the apple, him learning, eventually learning the mystic arts and but with the bend of that in itself. And of course, he was told by the ancient one, replayed by Tilda Swinton, um, that can't be the case. And of course, Doctor Strange doesn't listen. Um, uh, there's and that keeps and that's kind of the through line that kind of goes along through here. I guess he gets up to a certain point to we can assume to at the end of Dark Strange where he becomes the Sorcerer Supreme and he's in Sanctum Sanctorum, but he still has this. He's still thinking about trying to get her back, and he has the Time Stone / Agamotto, uh, and Benedict Wong replays Wong again, and it's like, let's, basically says like, hey, let's go. I'm gonna make put on some tea. Why don't you join me before you do something reckless? And of course, that's exactly what it is. Which I've seen in places it was like, yeah, that kind of mirrors, and that's kind of what Wong does anyway. It was like Wong pretty much is like, don't do this thing that you're about to do because it's not going to go well, and he doesn't listen, and he still does it anyway. If you've seen the Spider-Man trailer, the recent Spider-Man trailer, similar thing happens, you know. So
Right.
it's not outside the realm of possibility that's the thing they've on. So
I was
in
going to
this,
say, hold that thought. Hold that thought.
sure,
Shout out to Marvel Studios for finally confirming how we're supposed to pronounce Agamotto. because I
Yes.
don't know if they actually ever pronounce it more than once in the movie, in the Doctor Strange movie.
True.
So, because listen, we have all grown up as comic book fans with the orb of Agamotto and the eye of Agamotto, but
Mhm.
never ever have we ever had to say those things out loud, so we don't know how they're pronounced.
Exactly.
So, I'm glad that Marvel Studios has come to our aid and has shown us exactly how we're supposed to pronounce Agamotto, one of the Vishanti.
Right.
Take
Like
it away,
Shang-Chi.
Roddykat.
Yeah, like Shang-Chi. Um, but yes, so he uses the Eye of Agamotto, which is a time stone, and this decides to go back in time. He goes back to the time to the accident just to try to change things. Basically, if you remember the end of Doctor Strange, where he makes a bargain with Dormammu, would think that in a way, but he just goes back and relives the he Groundhog's Days, the accident, trying to figure out different ways. But it all ends up, everything he tries ends up the same way. She ends up Christine ends up dying. You know, he's still at a loss. Um, so then I believe this is where the point of the Ancient One kind of comes to visit him, which this is another. So this is where another thing that kind of they play with the timeline a little bit, as we come to find out, because the Ancient One comes in, who at this point is already dead. But apparently, and I think someone out there was like that. This seems like a not necessarily a loophole, but they kind of something that goes against what happens in the movie, because she's supposed to be dead and can't see past her death, but yet here she is. But that can be, I'm sure this can be explained off. You don't really think about it at the time. But so she comes back and
Right.
says,
I
"Hey,
think they also say that she's just an echo, basically,
exactly."
of the ancient one. So it's not technically in violation of it, but I understand.
And this is also a different reality. So who's to say something else that with involving her death, you know, didn't change? Like maybe she saw the things, saw this coming, and you know, took a step. But regardless, so she comes back to Strange and they're like, yeah, I know what you've been doing and this, like, this, other, blah, blah, blah. You shouldn't be doing this and this and that. Another, they he basically says, well, I'm gonna keep doing, I'm gonna keep trying. Agent was like, you don't do this because this is. She basically explains that Christine's death is an absolute point in the sacred time in the timeline that can't be changed. And of course, Strange is like, watch me try it. Somebody's got the power, have the power to do this, and therefore, um, he's going to try it because he's Doctor Strange. He knows no better. So, we see them kind of go against each other, and then he seemingly gets away. And to make a long story short, he goes to find someone who can help him, which um, comes in the form of the books of Kalish. How do you pronounce that? I don't remember how you pronounced it. Caliastro?
They pronounce no, they
Cagli-
pronounced it like it's written, Cagliostro.
Cagliostro. Thank you. Yeah, I couldn't remember. So he goes off to kind of find. He goes off to, presumably sometime in the past to find the library of Cagliostro. Why am I having so much trouble with that? Cagliostro.
Cagliostro. Like literally, just look
Cagliostro.
at it,
I
but
know.
don't.
I'm not looking at a recap. So it's
Right.
But regardless, he goes look for the library. He comes across the caretaker of the library, much like Wong was in the movie, in the form of Obing, which, come to find out, with a little bit of research, apparently is another name for Cagliostro.
Oh, no
Uh,
kidding. I didn't know that.
yeah, because I was watching an Easter egg video, and then I actually went and looked for myself. I'm like, oh, okay. But basically a pseudonym, because he went under other names, because apparently he was kind of a real charlatan. So technically, that person could the Oben person could very have been Cagliostro.
Hmm.
Um, so, but you can read about that those out there, folks. Regardless, he goes to the library, finds the information in the Louis. There is another tie back to the Doctor Strange movie with the books with the book he's reading from, and he finds out how to get the power to do this, and of course that causes him to do some things that Doctor Strange wouldn't normally do in taking powers from absorbing other people's powers, which means he goes and absorbs a bunch of demons' powers, including one that we saw from the first episode, presumably. And he was doing this and doing this and doing this, and we end up coming to find out that this particular Strange is a split Strange from the Strange of this reality. That when the Agent One sparred with Doctor Strange, she basically split him in half. So within the timeline, some kind of way. Because I guess if you got the kind of power to do that, sure. So there's a good Strange and there's this bad Strange that's been taking up power. So they're basically half of each other. So the bad Strange goes to look for the new Strange. The good Strange. They fight, and it ends up that bad Strange ends up winning and absorbing him, and things still don't go great because the world ends up still ending. And he does try to bring back Christine. That doesn't work out the way he wants to, because he's turned into a monster, literally, like almost literally and figuratively. And the world still ends. She basically still dies, and the Watcher kind of comes in and says, like, Strange, if I had to, if I could just punish you without the world, without the world coming to an end, I would. So you see a conversation. The first conversation I believe we've actually had between a character and the Watcher in this series, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if there was an actual other one in this series today. Like, we've seen the Watcher show up in places, obviously, but we've never seen him actually talk to any of the characters. So we talk to him, and then it kind of ends on the fact that Doctor Strange is on his own little, basically, bubble world that's kind of crumbled into him, that's kind of keeping that back. So we can only assume that this Doctor Strange is going to come back at some point. And that's pretty much that. It was a good episode. I know a lot of people, a few people that I know, actually have been praising it because of the dark tone of the episode. And yeah, I agree with that. Like, the premise of it was kind of a little loose, but because of the whole relationship thing, that didn't really seem like it was fleshed out. But again, there was leaps that had to be done.
Right.
But
I mean, it's similar to, as I was saying earlier, it's similar to a couple of these what if shows where the conceit is to stretch part of a relationship into something else, so that is what is part of the inciting what if factor. As I said earlier, is Peggy Carter being on the floor. It's Hope.
being a shield
Hope
agent,
Van Dyne, yeah, exactly, being a shield agent, unbeknownst to us,
right?
being a catalyzing force here, in another what if reality, that is. And in this case, we have this maybe more sympathetic love story as opposed to the semi-antagonistic love story, or post love story that we got in the Sacred Timeline of Doctor Strange, the movie.
Right. So here's where I guess partially here's where my theory kind of comes into it. Like, the whole, I don't know. I guess it kind of doesn't make sense if you think about it, because, or maybe it does. I don't know. So we know part of the premise of What If is that there's supposedly a multiversal Avengers possibly being formed out of these first few episodes. Um, and I feel like the Watcher, again, who we know comic wise has definitely interfered directly before. I kind of wonder if he didn't have a hand in some of the events kind of coming to happen. In particular, this particular one, like, um, yeah, Christine's death being an absolute point, an absolute, an absolute point. I kind of wondering if he had a little bit more to do with that than not. That is kind of my theory.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to know at this point.
Yeah.
We have 5 more of these what if episodes to go before we see what, if any, intent Marvel has with these what they intend to carry out with
Right.
these what if stories, because we're absolutely rapidly coming to the realization that these what if stories are meant to set up something else and are not just literally one off what if stories in the
Right.
vein of most of the old comic book series.
Right.
So we are going to have to wait and see just a little bit longer what Marvel intends to do with these what if characters, because there is a lot of speculation that we're going to see, just as Roddykat said, a version of the multiversal Avengers. We are also probably going to see several of these concepts making their way into the MCU proper,
Mm-hmm.
such as the possibility of one Shuma Gorath becoming a regular villain, maybe even in the Multiverse of Madness movie, because we've now seen two tentacled monsters rear their tentacles but not their head. So we're not 100% sure, but we've seen it in the Peggy Carter episode, and we've seen it obviously in this episode.
Possibly the same tentacles that just back, because obviously both times the tentacles were taken from him and not necessarily. It's probably the
But
same
the point
person.
is, it's
Yes,
the
but
same.
point is,
The point is, it's supposed to, at least to us, to our eyes, resemble the same character. It's
right.
supposed to. I think it's supposed to be the same character. It's not just
Yes,
some random tentacle. So ultimately,
definitely.
whether or not that is some foreshadowing of this character's involvement in the multiverse of madness or something else going forward, we'll see.
Yeah.
But that is twice now that we have seen this particular set of tentacles in a what if episode. So that's another aspect to it. Ultimately, I'm honestly going to wait to see what they do with the zombies, because we know that there's going to be a version of Marvel Zombies being
Mm-hmm.
brought in. What they do with the vampires, because maybe that's how they bring in Blade. We will see
Mm-hmm.
how this all plays out. So I think that if you know anyone who is not watching these what if episodes now, they should probably try to catch up before we go into more of the MCU. I don't think you're going to need it for Shang-Chi. Having seen it, it's not much of a spoiler, but you don't need it for Shang-Chi. I have the sneaking suspicion you might need it for Spider-Man No Way Home, though. Just a sneaking suspicion.
Maybe I mean this would be kind of a stretch, but maybe even in Eternals, we don't, you know.
We don't know. Yeah, we
Yeah.
don't know yet. We don't know yet, because the episodes will be done by the time we get to Eternal. So
Right.
Roddykat's thoughts may actually be the case that once you finish What If, you'll actually need something in these episodes to carry you over into or to more fully understand something in some kind of context that's applied in Eternals.
Right. Oh, but listen, time will tell on those on that. That being the case, though, like I said, I, it was an enjoyable episode. Even though, like I said, the premise it was kind of flimsy. The tone of it was great, and it was executed quite well, regardless of the flimsiness of the premise.
Yeah, super dark. I mean, I didn't necessarily find the premise all that flimsy. Like I said, I just accepted the fact that the events leading up to this kind of flex point,
Sure.
the point of what if, had to be a little bit different in order for the character to go down this very different and acknowledged very dark path.
Sure. 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 That being said, though, we're done with that. So probably spend a little bit more time than than intended to, but nevertheless, it is out there. We got another one next Wednesday, and we will be talking about that next Thursday. So now we're going to go on to the comic books of the week, which probably won't take that long either.
Right. We've got a weird fifth week scheduling uh, issue this week, where the fifth week of September, the fifth Wednesday in September, actually falls at the beginning of the month, but it also falls before the Labor Day weekend. If you're listening to this over the Labor Day weekend or watching it over the Labor Day weekend, enjoy. Have a safe and healthy and restful holiday weekend.
Indeed.
But yeah, we because of this kind of weird fifth week scheduling, we have just a few books out this week. Myself, I've read actually way less than what I normally would, and Roddykat was able to fit a few more books in. But we're going to start with Avengers number 48. It is written by Jason Aaron, with art by Javier Garron, colors by David Curiel, and letters by VC's Corey Pettit. So we start off this issue in the aftermath of the betrayal of one Ken Hale in Avengers Mountain, and we catch up with Ken Hale in Bagalia, and we all know what Bagalia is as a result of how this particular country has been developed in the last several years to be even more a scum and villainy than I wanted to say Madagascar, than Madripoor. I went with a real place as opposed to the fake place. Whereas Madripoor is playing its own role in the pages of Marauders and in the X books in general. Bagalia is the place where, much like Madripoor used to be, it's the place where the supervillains go to get away from things and to hang out and to gamble and to drink. So, if you're not familiar, Bagalia is the nation that's run by supervillains, and we catch up with Ken Hale, who is trying to drink his sorrow away after having betrayed. Spoiler alert: the Avengers to the Winter Guard and the Russians in general. The now transformed She-Hulk, the now transformed Red Hulk, She-Hulk, the Red She-Hulk is
I believe they call
oh,
her
what
the
did they
Winter
call
Hulk.
her?
The Winter Hulk.
Oh, the Winter Hulk.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So
And if you
everything
watch,
is winter or red when it comes to the Russians.
and she's both
So yeah,
now.
exactly. So we have the Winter Hulk going after Ken Hale, Gorilla Man, and she essentially recruits him to a mission that she's undertaking. And ultimately, we find out that they are on the hunt for a couple of
October.
things. One of them being to fulfill they're looking to fulfill missions laid out for them, laid out for the Winter Hulk by the Red Room and by the Winter Guard. But also, it seems that She-Hulk is sometimes moving on her own volition when the anger isn't as intense. Because I sort of read into something that she does here against the Vampire Nation that I don't know if the Winter Guard was behind it for sure, but it could have been, because it wouldn't be beyond them to double cross someone who they were working with just prior to this, in the efforts to subdue the She-Hulk and put her into the Red Room / Winter Soldier process.
Right, and going into this, you would think that okay, she sent. I mean, they sent her after Gorilla Man to kind of tie up that loose end to keep him from, to keep him from talking or doing whatever. But he was doing. Speaking of talking, though, he was doing a lot of talking in this issue, doing a lot of kind of noirish type monologuing, which I think
Yes.
that may be indicative of his character, or that we've not seen as much before, because like we know he's been in with the Avengers, and I know he's kind of an older character in itself anyway.
Right.
Um, so some of it bears out that way, but it's kind of funny to hear this much of it in the pages of here.
Right.
So yeah, while he's with She-Hulk, or the Winter Hulk on this mission, and he's kind of trying to talk her down from doing what she's doing, but he's also kind of, uh, you know, I guess, well, he's kind of like, yeah, he's kind of sorry that he did what he did. That's that kind of comes out in here, and yeah, for what you said about the thing that she might have been doing on her own volition, yeah, that seems like something she's doing, and not necessarily because of what the Winter Guard put her,
Right.
because there's that whole one panel about that we find out that the Winter Guard had vampires set upon her during her captivity. So it makes kind of sense that, yeah, like sure to want to kind of get some comeuppance, want to get some comeuppance from that, because being a character such as they would have needed a way to kind of break her down a little bit, and I guess the way to do it was to use vampires to kind of weaken her, and they also took some blood from her, which I guess is still in play out there somewhere. And I guess
I don't know. I was about to say, I think they show the shattered vials, the shattered remnants, the containers in the aftermath of her attack,
true, but that
where
doesn't necessarily mean that Dracula.
Brigade is. No, but I'm saying, I think they make a point of, whatchamacallit, of showing those shattered
Mm-hmm.
vials at Blade's feet.
Yeah.
So, assuming that there aren't more of them,
Right.
more vials of She-Hulk blood floating around out there, it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Right. Which is what I'm saying. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, we definitely do see that. Another, I love that Blade takes the kind of opportunity. It was like, what, did she kill a mouse? Oh yeah, she got all of them. That was pretty funny. But ultimately, like we see the rest of the issue is we see Winter Hulk with the Gorilla Man in tow on the mission that she has been set upon by the Winter God, which is seemingly to go and kill a character that has come up a few times in the pages of Avengers, and that is one Submariner Namor. But this is also hiding another mission that the Winter Guard is on of a similar nature, of a slightly bigger scope. Will it play out? Who's to say? But we'll find out next issue what happens with that.
Right. Right. Just think of it in the terms of, if you happen to watch the Suicide Squad, I again say the Suicide Squad.
Yes.
One group is essentially the distraction. That's what She-Hulk is.
Yes. But definitely plays out way differently than the distraction did in the Suicide Squad.
Exactly.
So yeah, definitely. That being said, like this was a fairly decent issue. Like I said, there was a couple of things I was expecting to happen, or at least one thing I expected to happen. But I guess there's a reason, as we are seeing going into the next issue, it didn't happen for a reason,
Right.
or
I
it
mean,
didn't happen the way it was
ultimately,
thinking.
the one aspect of the story that I needed to wrap my head around is the fact that the vampires were able to bite into She-Hulk's skin.
Exactly.
I needed help. With that. I'm like, what are they doing? They must be weakening her somehow before that's even possible.
Right. I was thinking they were like, yeah, exactly. I thought about that too. I'm like, you would think her skin would be a little too hard for that. Like maybe they siphoned off some gamma from her in some kind of way. Which I'm like, if they went that route, wouldn't they just do that to what they needed to
The
do?
whole way, right?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like that part kind of didn't make that much sense either. But I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go with it for right now.
Yep.
Like
So
again,
yeah, I
that was
mean,
kind of a stretch.
that particular aspect, right? That particular aspect of the story, I definitely bumped against, and
Mm-hmm.
had to kind of reconcile the fact that, okay, so they're doing something to lower her defenses and her natural invulnerability. So
Right. And there's also a reference to fairly recent events in Wolverine, which actually kind of ties sort of because we know Wolverine has also been going up against the Vampire Nation, and they've
right,
apparently, because we found out that, which I know if you've been reading Wolverine, like I believe Agent 70 has, that they've been wanting his blood also
right,
for similar reasons. Um,
right, as a way to power up the vampires against their natural weakness, which is daylight.
right. Essentially basically trying to make them into more blades as
Yep.
being Daywalker. So yeah, like I said, I haven't been reading Wolverine, but I do know that was there because I believe it has come up during the gala or something. It's basically in the pages of X-Men or X-Force or
Yep.
something. Actually, I think it was X-Force. Yeah. Regardless, that's that. So we can move on to do we want to do Sinister War before we go to rapid fire? Let's wait. You mute it?
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I clicked the one too many times. Yeah, all I have are New Mutants number 21 and Sinister War number 4. So we can quickly cover Sinister War number 4. Uh, So Sinister War #4 is written by Ed Brisson and Nick Spencer. Pencils are by Mark Bagley, Dio Neves, Marcelo Ferreira. Inks are by Andrew Hennessy, Andy Owens, Dio Neves, and Marcelo Ferreira. Colors are by Brian Reber and Andrew Crossley. And letters are by our very VC's Paisan, Joe Caramagna. My 2-word, or it's really one word because of the hyphen, review of this issue is anticlimactic.
Yes, absolutely. Like, this is definitely something that could have been done in the pages of Amazing. You know, if they wanted to kind of put another issue out, which we've said that before about a few different issues, as opposed to what they've been doing with it. Like, what was the point of doing this if it wasn't going to go anywhere? Like, they set up this whole Sinister War thing to where it was going to be this whole big thing, and it was a big thing, but it was only a big thing because there was a gang load of literal gangs for loads of characters that showed up in this thing. Like, pretty much almost every major spot. They even said it in here, like, yeah, like was fighting people that he totally forgot that he was fighting against in the in
Right.
this issue.
And they literally brought the Juggernaut in.
Right. Again, which, yeah, because he's been in the picture in the past, but yeah, he was kind of in and out during one of the arcs in the thing. So I was like, okay. So the long and the short of this was like, yeah, Spidey's still trying to fight against all these people all at the same time. No help. He's hurt. He's battered. You know, he does end up getting some help. And again, as Agent 70 said, a very anticlimactic possible. I guess we can assume that was an actual death, correct? Because even then,
because
that
they
was like,
pronounce.
because
Yeah, they
there's
pronounce him there. I'm like,
right.
there's not even a body that's not found. They actually
Right.
pronounce him on the scene.
Right, but even then, it was like it wasn't like normally when they have done something like this in the pages of a comic, it would be a little bit more to it. But this just felt like oh no, we're just going to go ahead and put this out here, bloop, and then that kind of informs the rest of the issue where the turning point happens for Spidey. But still, it ends with yeah, Spidey gets away, but there's a loss. He's got some people, you know, who was actually working with him before this. Like the same people were already working with him because of this character that died. Yeah, but unbeknownst to them in a way. Um, but then he also gets another you know another hand in help by one Dr. Octopus, which if you're watching the video version, you can see some tentacles. Um, and yes, yeah, Doc Ock definitely does play a good part in turning the tide of what's going on here. But it ends on such an anticlimactic note because, like, even with the death and even with like, okay, Spidey got away, and then they go to Mephisto and Doctor Strange, who are apparently still watching the scene from afar, like they're Master Roshi at the Kami house watching Goku and them fight.
Yeah.
Um, which really enough, that's the one thing that came along because they kind of the Agent 70 can get that reference now.
Right.
But and it ends
Well,
up with them talking,
well,
and
go
that's
ahead.
it.
Finish up your thought. You finish up your point, and I'll just throw something in to help close out.
Yeah, that was it. They pretty much say, yeah, he got away, but oh wait, but it's still not over yet, and that's it.
Right, right. Because ultimately here, I think the big takeaway is one, there is a character death, and it was definitely unexpected at the hands of a character who really has not had a role to play in the pages of Amazing Spider-Man in a long time.
True.
So the tables are turned in this issue due to someone acting superior. I'll put it.
Yes.
Someone is acting superior, and that is what turns the tables here,
Yes.
which annoys the hell out of me. But it's all part of the grand plan to take Peter out and put Ben Reilly in his place. And right. I don't know what wisdom there is in that plan. But what are you going to do?
Right. So here's the thing for me about that. That death was expected, just not in the way that it happened. Because I feel like he was gonna die at some point. Like I feel like they've been setting it up a couple of different times during the course of this whole thing. Like it's easy to
Okay.
get lost in, also with everything that's been going on with it, because there's been a lot going on and it's been drawn out. But I feel like
Right.
that's kind of something that was going to end up happening. I figure like it would have gotten a little bit more gravitas to it, a little bit more, it would have resonated a little bit more than this did, because it just kind of came and happened, and then it was like, all right, it came and happened, and then there's people was like, oh no, we gotta we gotta for this character, we're not gonna spoil who it is at this point, but we'll talk about it next time. But I figured like I knew it was coming. It's just like the word is anticlimactic. It just kind of came. That's how it happens,
Yep.
and then we go, and then that's it. So yeah, we still got a couple of we got like 2 more issues of Amazing to go with this whole thing, or one.
Yeah, just 73 and 74.
Yeah. So thankfully this will all be over. Like, don't get me wrong. So I feel like I can safely speak for ages 7 and 7. Like, we appreciate the fact that there has been a long running story. It's great if a long story the story didn't take the turns that it did, and it was obviously playing the long con that I can't say at this point paid off.
Right.
But like having a long arc is great. Or having long reaching plans is great. It's like execution is kind of the thing that kind of makes things happen. And so far, like we still have a couple of issues to go. Whether it's going to pay off in the end, I kind of
Right.
especially
Whether
with
it
what
sticks the land, whether or not Spencer's long form story sticks the landing, I'll ultimately, unfortunately, because we read previews, we have an inkling of where this is all going.
right.
But we'll see if this all pays off in the next 2 issues of Amazing.
I don't have hope for it at this point.
Same here. Same here.
That being said, we can move on.
Yes, I think we can spin up the minigun here and get
Absolutely.
into rapid fire.
I ain't got time to bleed.
Rapid fire. I guess you go ahead and do that one you got.
Yeah, I'll take care of my one lonely book for rapid fire, that being New Mutants number 21. It's written by Vita Ayala with art by Rod Rice, letters by VC's Travis Lanham with his co-worker and paisan Joe Caramagna. So ladies and gentlemen, if you are not watching the video portion of our programming, or the version of our programming, you are missing out on Roddykat giving a sly smile every time I shout out Joe Caramagna's Italian heritage.
Indeed.
So in this issue, we have a follow-up on several items, several events in previous issues, and I don't want to spoil too much here because Roddykat probably intends to read this at some point soon to catch up.
Yes.
But
Oh, yeah.
we have, as is wont to happen in the pages of New Mutants, 2 parallel stories happening in the pages of this book. One story following Warpath and a bunch of younger students who we are not familiar with at all. This could very well be their first introduction into the pages of the Marvel Universe. But they are on a mission on around the summer house around the moon, and they run into problems with an alien species that heretofore had thought to have been under control, as it were, by a fellow X-Man, and that's a big spoiler if you're familiar with what has happened in the X pages of the X-Men over the past several years. Even I think this was pre-Hoxpox, if I'm not mistaken. But
If it's what I'm thinking about, no, I think it might have been either during or
during,
shortly after. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So maybe my sense of how long ago this happened is a little bit thrown because it does feel like it was some time ago now. But ultimately, that alien race rears its ugly head. The other story, the parallel story, is regarding um, the Wild Hunt folks, and these young mutants who are trying to they're basically trying to resurrect Scout because she apparently gets killed during the Hellfire Gala, and there is some there's some ethical conversations about resurrecting clones and copies of people, where this has been an ongoing thing. I know that Hellions is out this week. I did not read it. I haven't read it in a while, but I know that Havoc, aka Alex Summers, is lobbying for resurrecting Madeline Pryor, and their counter argument is that the X-Men's counter argument is that Madeline Pryor is just a copy of Jean Grey. She's a clone of Jean Grey, so there's no need to bring back a clone. But in this case, they successfully lobby to have Scout returned and reborn through the resurrection protocols. Uh, Also, we have, and as part of this, we also have some resolution to what's been happening with Rain Sinclair as a result of her dealings with Amal Farouk, aka the Shadow King,
Mhm.
and it all seems to be heading towards some sort of uh, climax, probably in the next issue or two, with regards to with regards to the group of New Mutants taking on the Shadow King on the island of Krakoa.
So I believe going back to that Havoc thing you were talking about, I'm almost fairly. I haven't I've written Hellions this week either, but I do know what's going on with it uh, as of the last issue, and I kind of doubt they bring out that. But you are right that he has been lobbying for it, because I think what's going on in Hellions this is uh uh well, as I saw from some flavor text, a schism could be happening in between betwixt the team because of what
Right.
happened. Because of something that happened early on, and because of revelations that happened in the last issue.
Right. I
Um,
mean, the whole resurrection protocol thing is going to be the crux of the main schism in Inferno, which is going to be coming up
yes.
soon.
Yep.
And that's one of the other rules in the resurrection protocols that up till now has been followed, but is definitely being rebelled against by one Raven Darkholm. And if you
Mm-hmm.
don't know which character I'm referring to, do some research, get some reading in. When I say Raven Darkholm, you should know who that is.
In live action version, uh, played by a Hunger Games star. In but so in
And an ex Mrs. John Stamos.
wait, really? Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. That's totally right. I totally forgot about that. Yes, I totally forgot about that.
Roddykat said, "Really?" And
I'm
then
like,
all of a sudden, the
I'm like,
recognition hit him.
yeah, I was like, wait a minute, because I was thinking of the same person. I was like, oh right, I forgot the first. Yes, 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 yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
we have already had two cinematic versions of this character.
Arguably a better version of the character, in my opinion, but that's that's
A
subjective.
more traditional, yeah, a more traditional view on the character, in my opinion.
Yes, agreed.
So,
That being said, so yeah, I think that's it for New Mutants. But that was
yeah, and
something
that
I was
is it
thinking.
for me. So
So
you can
we're
go with your rapid fire books.
yes, indeed. As I get the comics, um, speaking of what I just said, that reminds me of something I've been thinking about, but hopefully it'll come to me. Um, Anyway, Magic: The Gathering #6. Creative team is writer Jed McKay. Illustration and colors by French Colomagno for the past version, and illustrations by Ed Guara for the present version. Colors by Ariana Consani for the present version for the present part. and lettering by Ed Dukeshire. Basically, if you know any, well, so I know there are some really heavy Magic the Gathering lore nerds out there. I am not one of them, although I do love the game and I do play every now and then. So the characters that are front and center in here, I know a little bit about. There's a character that shows up in that showed up in the last issue and is front and center in this issue that I have seen before, don't know that much about. That being said, so a planeswalker Java Ballard recounts her various meetings with a person associated with the god or person that the trio of the main cast is going up against. So this whole issue is basically a recounting of various stories that is leading up to the fact that hey, this thing is bigger than what I thought it was. And if this god happens to come back to plague Ravnica, which is a city that was kind of going kind of under fire at this point, uh, then it's going to be bad news, basically. So this, like I said, this whole thing was just a series of stories, or not even a series, like a few snippets of stories about the character's interaction with an acolyte of this person. Like I said, if you're a Magic the Gathering nerd or nerd, then as far as I know, this stuff is canon. I'm not actually sure about that, but it is a fun read. And Jed McKay does some good writing, as we have said in the past. And probably worth looking out for or looking at if you are so. Static Shock. Excuse me, it's not Static Shock. It is not. Static Season 1, number 3. Uh, creative team is Vita Ayala on writing. Pencils and inks and colors by Nicholas Draper Ivy. Pens and inks by Crisscross. And colors by Will Quintana. And lettering by Anwar Design. So, apparently something that I missed out on in the last issue of this was that a character that Virgil ends up meeting up with was was another milestone character whose book had just came out, I think a week before that or a week after that or something like that, and I didn't put the two names together, and I did end up reading that book. But basically, uh, Virgil ended up with some gear and some other things. So he ends up going to the secret stash of the character of Hardware. Apparently, a character he knew of, but not necessarily knew his quote unquote superhero version name of, or whatever the case may be. Somehow, like I said, some of the milestone stuff that I'm not really familiar with, interaction wise. But basically, Virgil ends up getting caught at a secret stash by the police because Hardware is wanted by the police because of something he was framed up for, and that stuff came out in his particular book, whenever that came out, whatever the but Virgil gets kind of caught up in he gets away from the police, but he not without gets some gear and a very familiar form of transportation he ends up finding and using, if you know anything about Static. And he also gets used to his powers a little bit more before um getting away safely from the police. Now, obviously, this is a more modern take of Static, so there's a couple of references here that's a little bit more modern than the original Milestone run. I believe there was a little Nas X song reference in here. I'm almost certain of that. But a couple other things happen. Is like this one other character goes to this other character to get help from powers, and another character, Hot Streak. I called him Hot Spot. Hot Streak kind of tries to get in good with the feds or the bad guys who are trying to collect Bang Babies, called the people who got their powers from the Big Bang, um, for a reason, which I guess hasn't been borne out, and I don't know if it's in the same classic sense, whatever the case may be. But regardless, we see that Virgil kind of gets the very first version of his I guess some would say the classic version of his suit that he ends up making. Um but not the one that is on the cover as you if you're watching the video version. So that is a treat for longtime Milestone fans. And he also we find a little bit more about uh Virgil's inspirations in this which again probably a little bit more modern than the original Milestone comics had set upon. But it's been a good read, so I've been enjoying it so far. Uh, you should check it out if you're so inclined. Next up, let's see, Wonder Girl #3. Creative team is writer Joel Jones, art by Joel Jones and Adriana Mello, colors by Jody Belair, and I believe Joel Jones. No, no, it should just art. Yeah. Um, colors by Jody Belair and letters by Clayton Cowles. Not with me. At this or at least no or at least not for this anyhow. That's just for Marvel stuff. So um Yara Flor and her I guess new friend slash love interest, I'm not even sure what they are, but definitely friends, get lost in the wood and they run into Eros, god of love, who's apparently trying to track her down, who has tracked her down and try to shoot her with one of his arrows for some odd reason, because the gods have some play into what's going on with Yara, and a bunch of people are trying to find her. This is just the first people to do it, but she's also in the woods where he finds out that she's possibly the protector of these woods or something. But there's also something chasing her new friend in here. Uh, some of which didn't necessarily get buried out, but this gets brought up. And on the other side of that, we see Artemis and Cassie Sandsmark kind of teaming up after they get attacked because they are also looking for Yara, and so are some other Themyscirians um, for some odd reason. So yeah, like I said, a bunch of people looking for Yara. Some folks have found her, and other folks are still looking for her. And that's the correct. Teen Titans Academy #6. Oh, I forgot. There's a couple. I totally forgot to that I meant to. Uh, creative team. Tim Sheridan, excuse me, is the writer. Pencils by Rafa Sandoval. Inks by John Tarragona. Colors by Ulysses Areola. Excuse me. And letters by Rob Lee. Um, so the kids are on a summer break and decide to have a pool party by this pond that's just outside of town or just outside the city. They run afoul of some trouble in the form of some mind control townies. Um, there was a Scooby Gang reference, which was kind of amusing. Uh, which, of course, Scooby being a DC property, not outside the realm of possibilities. But it was kind of amusing to see in this context. And we find out who's behind it, who is related to one of the students. Um, and we come to find out that I guess I don't know if the said student is under mind control, but apparently is also along with the plan. Wasn't um that's Transformers #34. This train keeps on trucking. We'll have some more Transformers news in the end. By the way, that's totally different from this. Writer Brian Ruckley, art by Anna Markova, colors by David Garcia Cruz and Evan Gaunt, letters by Jake M. Wood. And I gotta put down for that. But the crux of this issue is that Hermagex, who is probably a newer character in the canon of Transformers, but in this timeline has been around for a minute, who was the leader of the Synticons, but and had Megatron as kind of a or once upon a time was the head of the Synticons, of which Megatron has taken over and has now become the Decepticons at this point, and kind of has gone against her teachings, mentorship. So she's hiding out from him because of something that happened a couple of issues ago, and she's holding a somewhat a major power that will probably come into play a little bit more at some point, but has already been used at one point by some other folks. So Megatron's after her and ends up sending the Insecticons after her, and she gets attacked. She and the people that are with her gets attacked, and it goes a certain way up until the end of the end of the where some folks come in to help that we haven't seen. Or now to think about it, in the pages of this book, probably never. At least one particular one that shows up. Anyway, so we talked about that. We talked about that. WEB of Spider-Man, number 4. Which, yes, this is still going on. The creative team is Kevin Shinnick is the writer. Art by Alberto Albuquerque. Color artist Rachel Rosenberg. So Amadeus Cho joins up with the crew in Paris. Starting off in a quite accusatory tone, but ends up kind of joining the folks as because of the Paris facility of Web ends up getting attacked the same way as the New York facility by this fake Green Goblin. So the team splits up in half. I don't know why none of these people know that Peter Parker is Spider-Man at this point, even though they're a bunch of geniuses. I suspect they probably do, but we'll see if that actually comes if that bears out, because I think there's only like 1 or 2 issues left in this. But we end up finding out who this fake goblin is, and we do get a name that I'm not very much familiar with, but I'm sure we'll get a little bit more on it in the next issue. And last but not least, Dark Days number 1, which is written by Tom Taylor, art by Iban Coelho, color artist Brian Reber, and letters by VC's Joe Sabino. So this is another Tom Taylor joint, not too far away from Injustice or Deceased. If you've read any of those, or if you played the Injustice fighting game, there are some familiar beats in this stuff, and I kind of hate to say that because, but it's true. Also kind of familiar for another DC event uh, where a similar thing ends up happening, I guess, for a reason. But this is a Marvel joint, so the heroes of the Marvel universe end up coming across a major threat, thanks to the Peter Parker. This is definitely set in a different reality because Peter and Mary Jane has their daughter May. So we definitely on another timeline right off the bat, and I think a couple other things that are different in there. Human Torch is not in flames, in perpetual flames as he is in current comic books. But regardless, that sets that up. So there's an impending doom that's happening, that's befalling the Earth, and the Watcher kind of comes in and tells folks what they're dealing with. So they hatch a plan to kind of deal with it. And I don't know if Agent 70 is going to read this or not.
I'm not sure yet. I'm still deciding.
Yeah. So basically, they come up with a plan. It kind of goes a certain way, and in going into the next. I'm not gonna say one way or the other how it goes, but some things happen. And like I said, if you've read Deceased, specifically, there's pretty much some similar beats that, or at the very least, there's a couple of similar beats that happens during the course of this issue, that's like that seems kind of familiar in that. And like I said, whatever that other DC event was that where it got perpetually dark, the Earth got perpetually dark and dying. I think it's 0 hour. Was that 0 hour or
I
Final
couldn't
Night?
tell you. Oh,
Might have been Final Night or something like that. I can't remember what it was. Regardless, it was there was an event that kind of down the last days of Earth because of some you know earth shattering event. This is something similar, and the thing, personal thing behind it, I don't know what that is. It seems celestial in nature, but I don't really know the point. Regardless, that's the thing. It's going into the next issue, and I guess I'll see where it goes. And that, folks, is it for me. And now we can go to Clicks of the Week.
Clicks of the week.
Apparently we don't
Yeah,
have.
mine is easy. I don't think we have anything from our absentee
We
co-hosts.
do not.
So I am going to, like I said, I only have 3 things to choose from. I'm going to go with Avengers number 48 because it did in fact advance the story, and we got to see a little bit of the fallout from Gorilla Man's decisions to betray the Avengers, and we'll see where that goes in the next issue or 2 because I know they're gearing up for a big issue 50 anniversary.
Indeed. Oh, that's where I was going with that whole Indeed thing. So, uh, a side note while I'm thinking about mine, which I think I already kind of know it. I'm just gonna put this out there. If they ever do another GI Joe movie, and they probably will, and I think they are going to actually do that, they should consider having Lance Reddick play Destro. I think he would make a good classic Destro if they do him right. They have not been shown to do that with any other characters lately, as we may possibly talk about one day with Snake Eyes G.I. Joe Origins, but we'll get to that on some other occasion. You muted again.
I was about to say, if I ever get around to watching that movie.
Yes, indeed. I have just watched it and it not. That being said, my click of the week is probably going. This is kind of one of those weeks. Is like while it's the first week of the month, like Agent 70 said, it's kind of a fifth week. It feels like a fifth week situation. That's not saying nothing quality comes out on a fifth week, but they just kind of throw some things out there, or it feels like it's kind of throw some. Like actually, kind of technically, kind of was given that like Agent 70 holiday, but Magic the Gathering number 6, I guess I'll go with. Like I said, there was the Teen Titans Academy book was all right. That Wonder Girl book was okay. That definitely the if I had to pick another one, the Static book was actually also pretty good. And I'm actually no, I'll stick with what I got. Yeah, the Static one is definitely worth checking out. But I am definitely going to go with Magic the Gathering. And that being said, folks, we can go on to the news section. But first, an ad read.
Our first ad read of the night is for Blue.
And as we do every time about this time, we're going to get into the cinematic news. Starting off with pardon me, folks. If you're watching the video version, you weren't supposed to see that. The Gifted was set in an obliterated timeline to avoid colliding with the X-Men films, according to the showrunner. So apparently, but before the merger between Disney and Fox allowed most Marvel characters to exist in the same cinematic universe, continuity within the X-Men films were hard to pin down. For the TV series The Gifted, the connection to the films was even more tenuous. Long story short, they were told that they have to stay out of the way of the movies, so they can't touch the X-Men movie. And so the showrunner of the show, Matt Nix, came up with the idea to basically make it in a timeline that gets taken out in, I guess, taken out in fast. Or, yeah, to find my way around the hurdle, I was just the guy that came in with the best idea for staying out of the way. Hey, remember in Days of Future Past how they go back in time and there's an anti-music Kobe in the future, and then this time looks like it's our time. Using that area as the setting for the Gifted meant that nothing that happened would affect the movies. Just give me the years in between, and then my show will get erased, and it doesn't matter. So there you go. It's an interesting way to deal with it. Makes sense, I guess, in that context. Next up.
Alrighty, Clark Gregg throws cold water on any hopes for a Coulson revival in Phase 4.
Uh-huh.
So, in an interview with Entertainment Weekly regarding What If episode, a previous What If episode, Clark Gregg touched on the topic of the character's possible future in the MCU. When asked what he would hope to see from Coulson in What If or other Marvel projects going forward, Gregg confirmed his involvement is limited. He expressed excitement for the Phase 4 film slate, but only as a viewer, not an actor. Gregg's answer threw cold water on recent rumors that Coulson will get a second chance at life in another Marvel project. And regarding fan speculation, the actor doubled down on his answer. He said he has followed the rumors, but he has only followed them as an avid fan. So while Gregg said Coulson has no foreseeable MCU revival, he expressed gratitude for the chances he's had to return to the character. On Agent 70 note, bear in mind, Clark Gregg is definitely aware of the Marvel snipers, unlike Alfred Molina.
Exactly. And I'm not sure what place the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. ended up, but I'm almost fairly certain that even despite them, I believe, spoiler alert, I believe there was a death of his character or character he played in the course of that show. He may still be around because I think that came back as another character, but I don't know what happened with that. But I've seen some things on that show that I need to catch up on. I feel compelled to be caught up on. Regardless, that show's kind of not canon, sort of.
It's kind of, sort of, yeah. It's a
Yeah.
kind of, sort of thing. You know, we've seen how the What If shows may be pulling some things back into canon,
Mm-hmm.
but we'll see how this develops along the way.
Right. At a certain point, yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, because as a fan of the Inhumans, I really hope they just trash the what came in that awful form and just use, you know, the good parts of it. But unfortunately, Inhumans is on Disney Plus, so it's kind of hard for them to scrap it.
I still never watched that.
No, I never watched it, and I don't intend to. I think I watched like the first half of the first episode or something, and then I just got annoyed.
Right. Yeah, I heard not great things about that whole thing. So, but I still, at some point, still plan on watching it. Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., I liked very much more. Like, at a certain point, as I was going to say, it was kind of canon because they were kind of falling behind the movies at the time. And then at a certain point, they just kind of, they broke off like the timeline, basically.
Right.
So, which let them kind of go in a whole different, I guess, kind of in a different.
Right. And, you know, as Roddykat mentioned, you know, we don't know if they're going to pull them back in at some point. And obviously, Loki has brought up a relatively easy way for a lot of these semi-canon stories to actually become canon.
Exactly. And as far as we know, Agents could be in another timeline at this point. And I kind of wish they would, because there's a couple of characters I would love to see in the MCU as played by the ones. Awesome being one of them, I guess. You know, well, yeah. and a couple other
Well,
characters from that show.
well, you know, exactly. I mean, look, we want Agent May back, and we'll
Yes,
see if,
absolutely.
honestly, we'll see if, you know, and I think this is this was some of the speculation that Chloe Bennett's character Quake may actually end up coming up during Secret Invasion, because that's filming now.
Right.
And some of the speculation is that she left that Powerpuff Girls live action show because she got called by Marvel.
I hope that is the case. Yes, and that definitely was a speculation, and I'm hoping that's kind of the case. I would love to, because yeah, her character was alright too. I enjoyed, ended up liking her character a lot more in article. Definitely Agent May, definitely Coulson. Uh, bring back Mockingbird, yes.
Yeah.
Um, and whose name's escaping me, who played her, but regardless, yeah, bring back some of those folks. Anyway, moving right along. Next up.
You go next.
Oh no, I took that one. Oh wait, hold on.
No.
Well, that was the first. Oh, I'm sorry, that was the
Hawkeye
second one. No,
EP.
yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I was thinking that was the first one. Sorry. Hawkeye EP promises a show that's packed with Christmas spirit. Um, hopefully not being done by um Shane Black, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, because he has a penchant for setting his movies at Christmas for some strange reason. The Hawkeye executive producer Tren Tran, which reminds me of Trini from Power Rangers, enough, revealed that upcoming Disney Plus limited series will be full of Christmas spirit, apparently. While speaking to TV Guide, Tran delved into the first meeting between the original Hawkeye, Clint Barton, and his soon-to-be successor, Kate Bishop, who worshipped him and has trained for years to be like Clint. Quote unquote, Kate is looking for ways to implement those, Tran stated. That's when she runs into Clint, who has no idea who she is. Really doesn't really understand her obsession. Um, Honestly, in the beginning, neither did we, or neither did readers. But Tran also called Hawkeye grounded and funny and packed to the brim with Christmas spirit. However, things in New York won't be completely merry as the series takes place after Avengers Inc. Last quote here is the city has in many ways recuperated and continued thriving, she concluded, but the same can't be same said for all of its. There you go. Next.
On the 1 year anniversary of Chadwick Boseman's passing, multiple Marvel collaborators paid tribute to the Black Panther star memory via social media. Marvel Entertainment, Marvel Studios, and other accounts and stars posted a photo of Boseman and message to their respective social media pages, writing, "Honoring our friend, our inspiration, and our king, Chadwick Boseman." So yeah, some of that comes from the closing to the What If episode 2. You know, but it's something that is you know, is out there. You know, that's been out there since Boseman's untimely passing. Black Panther actor Lupita Nyong'o, who played T'Challa's love interest Nakia, also shared an image of the two of them together out of costume. Let's see, you know, and Boseman died on August 28th, 2020, from stage 4 colon cancer.
Sorely missed, definitely. Even with the What If, there was definitely people
Oh yeah,
in and around anniversary. And he's, by the way, I think he still has like 4 appearances.
yeah, like 2 or 3 more, something like that.
Yeah, because I think it was supposed to be like so that was only one. Anyway, so The Mandalorian's 8 biggest reveals about the making of season 2 finale. So basically, this is an article going to say that, hey, Disney Plus has a Disney Gallery, the Mandalorian, that you folks may want to check out if you are interested in the behind the scenes making of that finale and parts of that season 2. I have not watched it yet. I meant to do it
Oh,
before
it's too
now.
bad. It's
Yeah,
good. It's
I know.
excellent.
I've heard.
It
And
is excellent, excellent stuff.
yeah,
I was I was very much impressed at the levels of dedication by the crew and by the people who were involved. And they talked about how the voice work wasn't exactly voice work. I won't spoil it.
Right.
I think we did talk about it in the aftermath as news slowly leaked out about it, but to have that confirmed and to see how they used some uh, computer aided capabilities to affect that particular voice effect.
Yes.
That's part of the, that's it's unfortunately going to become more and more part of the discussion as we get voices for characters by actors who aren't with us anymore.
Right. But also, I did see part of this article that said that, which I still would have enjoyed if that was the case. I think there was a fake script where another Jedi of of note, to some degree, to some folks. I actually like this Jedi. That would have been the one to come in place of in place of Luke. Which, if that had been the
Right.
case, I've been fine with that actually. But apparently, it was a swerve.
Right.
Um,
Well, because they put it in as a swerve because apparently that's Dave Filoni's favorite Jedi character.
hmm I don't blame him. I enjoy that character, and it makes sense because yeah, if you think about Clone Wars and the character, well, the character didn't get had some moments in Clone Wars, but not to the extent of some of the other characters that were more presented. But definitely, I like this character as well. Probably, maybe may or may not be as much as Filoni, but definitely. If you're watching the video version, you can see the Jedi in question in a some concept art for a scene for the in the finale. And if you're not watching the video version, you should sometime. It's good stuff. But next up, you're muted.
My apologies. Uh, The Rocketeer is making a comeback on Disney Plus with David Oyelowo producing and circling to star. Ed Reichort is penning or writing, I presume.
Mhm.
Uh, Disney is reviving a cult classic favorite, The Rocketeer, with a new Disney Plus movie titled The Return of the Rocketeer. David and Jessica Oyelowo are producing under the Yoruba Saxon banner. The project, written by Ed Reichort, will also be a possible starring project for the Selma actor. The original movie, released in 1991, was directed by Joe Johnston, who went on to direct Captain America: The First Avenger,
Mhm.
and adapted from Dave Stevens' graphic novel. In that film, which made close to 47 million at the domestic box office, and became a fan fave for the studio, a young pilot stumbles onto a prototype jetpack that allows him to become a high flying masked hero. Okay.
Yeah, and upon reflection, reading that, it's like, yeah, I totally forgot that was Joe Johnson because I remember watching the Rocketeer, and you could definitely see some similarities in style, and it's also a period piece at a certain point. In Captain America: The First Avenger and the Rocketeer, which is, by the way,
Right.
on Disney Plus if you have that option to watch it again if you want to.
Right. Just as a final note, the return of the Rocketeer will have an all new creative directive, with Reichort's story focusing on a retired Tuskegee airman who takes up the Rocketeer mantle. Okay.
Okay, and I guess so. We can probably save it safely soon. David Oyelowo is going to be the star of this also. I'm kind of
Probably.
yeah, I'm curious as to what made him think about what was like. Hey, Rocketeer, that's something I want to do.
You got me?
Yeah. I mean, you can. I feel like there's some speculations I can make, especially given the prevalence of comic book movies right now. But we won't. Uh, Next up, though, uh, Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson teaming up for an action movie from Deadpool writers. Scarlett Johansson and excuse me, Chris Evans and Scarlett Johansson, two super. Y'all know who that is. Good lord, I don't know why they do this stuff. Um, They're set to appear in another movie together, but it's not a new comic book or a superhero film. Evans and Johansson will star in the movie Ghosted, which is described as an adventure movie project. It's being produced for Apple. So chances are not that many people. Anyway, Dexter Fletcher, who directed Rocket Man, is directing the Ghosted. Direct Deadpool writers Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick are writing the script and producing. The plot is a secret, but the Hollywood Reporter described it as being like a high concept romantic action adventure in the vein of Romancing the Stone. And if you're of a certain vintage, you actually know what that is. I don't think they've remade that one just yet, so let's hope they never do.
Yeah.
Starring Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner. So, and then it goes on to some other stuff about the Johansson. That next up,
The fourth and final Adventure Time Distant Land special, Wizard City, premieres on HBO Max early this September. Is officially slated to arrive on HBO Max early this month, actually, not next month anymore. It premiered yesterday, apparently, on Thursday, September 2nd. The special follows Peppermint Butler as he, quote, starts a new life as just another inexperienced wizard school student, but when mysterious events around campus cast suspicion on Pep and his checkered past, can he master the mystic arts in time to prove his innocence? Okay.
sure. I have not watched any of those specials. Matter of fact, really haven't seen much of Adventure Time. Although a couple of things I've seen are not bad. I don't know.
I was about to say, you know what my reaction is, right?
Who?
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I saw that one coming, but actually, from what I've seen of Adventure Time, it's actually pretty good. Like I said, I want to go through the whole series, but in due time. Next up, though, from the world of Titans, Blackfire finally arrives, but there's a twist. And this is spoilers for season 3, episode 4, which is called Blackfire, which is now out on HBO Max. Won't necessarily go too far into this, but basically, Blackfire, who is Starfire's sister, shows up, but not in the classic way that one would know her in from the comics. Apparently. So
That's exactly right.
yes. So
That's
actually I'll just leave it at that because again she kind of comes in a way different from comics and Titans is in a different world that doesn't really hold too closely to the comics anyway.
Nope. It holds almost nothing sacred. It is
yes.
all just throwing down napalm on every warm memory that people have of the new Teen Titans, especially during the Wolfman and Perez run. We had a former guest talk about how he had never read those comics and was writing this writing this show anyway, and is now an executive producer or a producer on the show.
Yes.
Brian Edward Hill.
Yep.
And I was flabbergasted, as an old French teacher would say. I'll tell you that Titans. I think Roddykat said something along the lines of he doesn't have the time to spare to hate watch things because for academic purposes. I do, in the sense that I want to see what I hate and and be able to back up why I hate it. And Titans is now officially hate watching material because as much as I'll like a few creative decisions that they take, I will hate the overall direction that much more.
Right.
So
I hadn't gotten to that point.
It's very much a hate watch.
Right. I hadn't gotten to that point. I think I've watched like 3 episodes of it, and I was like, I'll come back to it. Not that I didn't like it. It's just like, okay, there was other things at the time I was watching a little more. But now I may come back and going on definitely out of curiosity to see where the end of the first season goes. Like I said, if I end up not liking it, I'm just gonna. But any chance to see more of Anna Diop's Starfire, I'm down with.
Hey,
Anywho,
to each their own.
exactly. Doom Patrol. Oh wait, no, this is you. Sorry.
Oh, that's right. Doom Patrol drops first photos of Sabrina alum Michelle Gomez's season 3 villain. The first images of Doctor Who and chilling adventures of Sabrina actor Michelle Gomez as Madame Rouge in season 3 of Doom Patrol have arrived. New photos from season 3 of Doom Patrol feature the debut of Michelle Gomez's Madame Rouge. Okay. Entertainment Weekly shared the images, which feature two different looks at the classic comic book foe of the misfit superheroes. Okay.
So, fans of Doctor Who know who Michelle Gomez is. Missy, very much a good villain actress from that show and other things she's done. So this is interesting. I've not Doom Patrol is another one I've not actually. I don't think I've seen any of Doom Patrol. Now that I think about it, I think I might have watched the first episode, if that. So knowing that she's in it, yeah, that'll lift the show up a little bit more. Whether I get to watch it or not, we'll see. Next up, though, Matt Ryan explained Constantine's departure from Legends of Tomorrow. Kind of goes into the past with his Constantine show with NBC, but apparently we found out that the viewers didn't find out that Ryan was leaving Legends until Comic-Con at home. But according to him, his exit has been in the works for quite some time. Quote unquote. I knew before I started shooting the season. It was the last season that we knew it was going to happen. So we had a conversation, and it was like, oh, okay. So when the original Constantine show was canceled, which by the way, if you get a chance to watch the show, it was really it's probably on Peacock or something. It felt like there was unfinished business. I felt like I wish that I could get to play out this character in a way that that I didn't get to, because it that show ended on a cliffhanger that really made me upset. That they should return to, which I still don't think they did in this, but regardless. Anyway, who would have thunk that 7 years later I'd still be playing the character getting to Ryan said. So regardless, he kind of goes on from there, saying that his love of the character and playing the character, and despite the fact that while he's not playing Constantine before, we've had a story like within the last week or two saying that he's still going to be on the show as another different character, not that one. Next up.
Next up, BAFTA Award winner Tony Curran of Your Honor and Ray Donovan has joined the cast of the CW's The Flash in the role of Despero. He is currently filming the upcoming 8th season of the series. The character is described as a powerful and intelligent alien possessing incredible telepathic powers who left his homeworld, Kalanor, under mysterious circumstances. Now he's facing a deadly mission on Earth, one whose outcome will decide the fate of humankind and put him on a collision course with Team Flash. Okay.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, I also
You know what's
what's
Despero is a supervillain created by Gardner Fox and Mike Sekowsky, who made his first appearance in the 1960 DC comic A Justice League of America #1. Okay. I did not know Despero had been around that long.
But there's a whole lot of DC stuff I don't know about, so it's not surprising. I know Tony Curran. I know from that sci-fi show, Defiance, and he was pretty good in that. And I think I've seen him in elsewhere. I guess it's next up. Bridget Regan. Is it Reagan or Regan? I guess it's Regan. To play Poison Ivy in season 3 of Batwoman. So yeah, the CW's Batwoman has tapped Bridget Regan to play Pamela Isley, excuse me, aka Poison Ivy, for the drama series' upcoming 3rd season. Opposite star Javicia Regan will reoccur as a former botany student of Gotham University, a passionate, brilliant scientist with a mind for changing the world for the better. You know the character of Poison Ivy, you kind of know where that goes. Will Harley Quinn end up showing up on the show? Probably not. That's me. I don't know. But and this article goes on to talk about the other people they've added for this. There you go. Again, another show that I have not been watching. Next up.
Next up, Lucifer Season 6's animated episode has recruited HBO Max's Harley Quinn team, the team behind HBO Max's Harley Quinn series. In order to make this unconventional chapter in its Netflix's Lucifer's final outing a reality, the devilish crime drama enlisted team members from an entirely different DC Comics adaptation, as aforementioned HBO Max's Harley Quinn. In an interview with Collider, Lucifer co-showrunner Joe Henderson revealed that Harley Quinn supervising producer Jennifer Coyle and a team of animators from the show stepped in to handle the animation for Yabba Dabba Do Me. It's an episode written by Henderson and directed by Nathan Hope. The animated adventure will serve as Lucifer Season 6's third episode. Okay.
A show that I did not know was still on the air. Although I know
I guess I'm pretty sure we announced that it had been revived on Netflix.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, I know we've had articles. The Batman, Gotham Knights, Aquaman 2 headline DCFandome 2021 stream schedule. So yes, DCFandome is back once again on October 16th. Apparently it's gone down to 1 day as opposed to the 2 days from the last time, which is something or not. But hey, so yeah, DCFandome, DC's entertainment streaming fan event, and I'm going to take this next one because it is related. In the announced schedule, Warner Bros. Pictures promised a new trailer for The Batman, along with glimpses of other 2022 releases like Black Adam, The Flash, and Aquaman 2. Along with DC movies, the lineup promises new looks at upcoming comics, games, and animated projects. Scheduled to make a second bow at DCFandome are Gotham Knights, which is the video game that is upcoming. I'm looking forward to the Batman ensemble action game that is coming up next year from WB Montreal, and Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League, which is another game by Rocksteady Studios, makers of the Batman Arkham series. I'm looking forward to both. And it just kind of goes on from there, talk about some other stuff that is going to be in the event. And on that front, in the next article, Peacemaker prepares for DCFandome with a fitting new poster. So we all know John Cena is getting a HBO Max named Peacemaker based off his character from the Suicide Squad. Gotta have the thud there. There was this photo, which if you're watching the video version of the program, you can see here, which was from the DC Peacemaker Twitter account, which says, "Give peace an effing chance," and it has, I guess, Peacemaker with the two fingers out of his car, uh, and the show date and DC hashtag DCFandome. There you go. That's going to be another thing that they're going to show at the show. And probably, I guess, John Cena's probably going to be in the costume again. That. Next up.
Merry Little Batman movie is announced by DC. Warner Media announced this past Tuesday that Merry Little Batman, a new animated film that will air as part of Cartoon Network's Acme Night block of programming before debuting on HBO Max at a later date, is going to come out. A release date and cast have not been set for the animated family action comedy, but we do know that the project will follow Damian Wayne Robin and is aiming to join the Rogues gallery of classic holiday movies. Okay.
By the way, I am reminded that the Suicide Squad is going to leave HBO Max. soon, quite soon. So if you haven't watched it yet, you might want to go ahead and check it out while it's still there. Anywho, Lily Wachowski reveals why she didn't come back for The Matrix 4. Let's see. Matrix Resurrections, as we found out from last week, is the name of the Matrix 4. Will reunite several cast members from the original trilogy when it arrives this winter. However, one of the most notable absences is Lily Wachowski, who wrote and directed the first 3 films with Lana. Now we finally know why Lana is following Solo on the series' next installment. Lily, via The Wrap, recently appeared during the TCA panel to plug the second season of her Showtime series Work in Progress, which premiered earlier this week, or the week of it's last week. When asked about Resurrection, she explained that she was feeling exhausted due to the lack of breaks between her recent filmmaking endeavors, which included Cloud Atlas, Jupiter Ascending, and the first season of Netflix Sense8, all of which she worked on with Lana. So the idea of taking on a project as big as another Matrix movie seemed like too much pressure at the time. Moreover, this sense of burnout also kept her from working on Sense. Go. Next up.
Next up, as reported by Variety, Netflix has tapped Victoria Mahoney to direct its sequel to The Old Guard, the superhero action adventure led by Charlize Theron. The Old Guard premiered on Netflix in July 2020, and by the streaming service's vague metrics, appears to have been a hit, garnering 78 million views in its first 4 weeks. Gina Prince Bythewood directed the first film, based on the comic book by Greg Rucka, but opted not to return because she was working on other projects. Prince Bythewood was eager to pass the reins to Mahoney, who recently served as second unit director on the J.J. Abrams directed Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker.
That sigh you just made.
Anyway,
did you watch that old? I think you did. You watched that Old Guard movie, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You liked it?
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. I have still yet to watch it. Anywho, oh dear. Huh. Well, apparently Gizmodo might be down, but nevertheless, we still got the next story. In that, here my Star Trek's Prodigy beams up some bad guys. So, Star Trek's big new break into kid-focused animation with Prodigy has already given us a motley crew of alien teens, a Starfleet legend to guide them, and even a glimpse of their slick new ship. But now we know that what they're going to be up against, and it's already sounding very good. Deadline has confirmed that 2 major antagonists in the series will be voiced by Lord of the Rings, Legends of Tomorrow, Fringe, and about a billion other beloved shows and films, John Noble, and Black Mirror, Westworld, and House of Cards, Jimmy Simpson. Jimmy Simpson, excuse me. Noble will voice a character known as the Diviner, or the Diviner, I guess I'm say that. Described as a ruthless tyrant who runs the asteroid Tars Lamora with an iron fist. And he also has a connection to one of the characters. Meanwhile, Simpson will voice Dreadnought, which sounds like the Dreadnoughts of G.I. Joe fame, a spider-like robotic guard and the Diviner's right hand. There you go. So we don't have any. We don't know when this is going to premiere, but it's going to be on Paramount Plus later this year, and there'll be more about it on Star Trek Day on the 8th. Next up.
Umbrella Academy Season 3 has wrapped production. Netflix announced the Season 3 of the Umbrella Academy has wrapped with a new video featuring the show's stars. Let's see. Netflix has shared a new video featuring the stars of the Umbrella Academy, announcing that season 3 has wrapped production and hyping the upcoming episodes. Okay. And it's posted to Twitter. The video kicks off with Vanya Hargreaves, actor Elliot Page, saying he's stoked because he can't wait for you to see it, and sad because I'll miss everybody. Okay. So there's some other reactions here from the cast. And okay. I mean, are you up on the show?
No, I've not watched any of it.
It's good.
Mhm.
It's good.
I've
I'm
heard.
not a fan. I mean, I've never really read the comic book, so I don't
Right.
have anything to base it off of. And I think it's pretty good. So
Mhm.
I would recommend it.
I've heard that. I heard like season 2 might have been a little down, but still, for what I heard from, yeah, I've actually watched it.
That's
Also,
exactly right.
yeah,
That's exactly right.
also I like that shirt Elliot Page is wearing in the thumbnail of the tweet to that video. Which for the people not watching the video version, it says written and directed by the Wachowski sisters. Next up, 4 classic Gundam titles coming to Funimation. So Funimation has partnered with the anime studio Sunrise to provide more mobile suit Gundam content for its subscribers to enjoy. As announced by Funimation, beginning September 7th, English subbed and dubbed version of Mobile Suit Gundam Narrative, Mobile Suit Gundam Wing, which I'm surprised wasn't on there actually, and Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam and Mobile Suit Gundam The Origin, which again also surprised wasn't on there. Will be available on its streaming service in Canada, the United States, United Kingdom, Ireland, Australia, and New Zealand. 4 titles will join Funimation's already extensive collection of entries from the Gundam franchise, including the original Mobile Suit Gundam anime, Mobile Suit Gundam Iron Blooded Orphans, and UC Unicorn. I know Agent 70 has been doing a run of Mobile Suit Gundam anime at some point. I don't know if you've gone back to that
Well, I
or
know I just did MSG,
right.
Mobile Suit Gundam team, MSG 18, 08 team, 8th team.
Yes. Oh, that's one of my favorites.
Right. I watched that, and I have not yet really. I tried Wing, Gundam
Mm-hmm.
Wing. And now that it's jumped over to Funimation, maybe I'll give it another shot. I mean, I think I was watching it on Hulu,
That's what you
so
did say.
maybe I'll be able to do it without commercials.
Yeah,
We'll see.
we've talked about Wing. I personally love Wing, but I also know it can get a little up its own ass sometimes. So I understand it could be a hard proposition for some people.
Pretty
But
much. And
anyway,
last but not least,
yes.
Hasbro is releasing all seasons of the 80s Transformers G1 animated series on YouTube.
Woo! Yes.
Seriously.
Yes. So yeah, so they had so if you follow my Twitter account, you saw this news last week when it first dropped because I was very stoked and was also a little wrong about the beginning 3-parter, which I said 5-parter. I was excited, so you can't
Yeah.
fault me for that. And if you tried to, screw you. But nevertheless, the first 16 episodes, which I guess does definitely make up the first season, is now on there. And according to this article or another article that I've seen, they're releasing them in chunks, which I haven't seen a chunk from this week because I know it's still the last time I checked, which was like yesterday. Um, it's still the season 1 stuff. Um, and I think they did say, or I saw something that said that they are definitely releasing them in chunks weekly. But like I said, I haven't seen. But then again, I totally forgot about it because I think I saw it Friday, either Friday going into Saturday, like after 5 o'clock in the morning. So probably, since we are recording on a Friday night, which is not normal for us, and this weekend has gone by so slow that I thought it was like Saturday already or something. Don't worry about it. that's why the time kind of got away from me. So technically, okay.
I did. I of course clicked the link.
Of course. And obviously, and they do have a playlist for it now for the first season because they didn't when I first saw it, and I made my own playlist. But regardless, so there is definitely a playlist out there on the Hasbro Pulse YouTube channel, of which is hosting it. They don't have a 24-hour like ongoing channel like they are doing with the G.I. Joe stuff right now, and I don't think haven't added all of they still haven't added Colt Luther, that's what I know, but I don't know if they added too much more to that particular thing. Hopefully they're going to do that though, but nevertheless, this is pretty cool that they're putting them all out there. And I know, like I said, it hadn't come up, but I know there's at least one person who was probably like, well, Roddy, you have all the seasons on DVD. Why do you care about this? Because it's on YouTube and everybody can see. And I can just readily get to them because I can't get to my stuff right now, even though I've ripped them. It is also the 35th anniversary of the Transformers, and we already know from what we've talked about previously that the Transformers the movie is going to go back into theaters soon, actually, sometime this month. Maybe next week or two. I can't remember. But yeah, according to this, like I said, the first 16 are out there. The next 3 seasons will be released weekly, according to the article. And like I said, the next season will probably be out there by the time you hear this on audio version. If you haven't had a chance to check out the G1 stuff, you should. It's great stuff. Whether it holds up to nowadays, again, screw you. But it's all love. Anyway, we're going to go to. Wait, is that it? That was it for the. Yes, that is it for the cinematic
That is our
news.
last story in the cinematic news.
So we're going to go over to the comic book news. New York Comic Con releases advanced look at programming, including Star Trek and the Comixology, which there's also going to be some news about Comixology later. So, New York Comic Con is October 7th through the 10th. And it's coming up rapidly. It's going to be smaller than the show in the past, not surprisingly, given we're still under pandemic conditions. And just to get folks in the mood, Repop has announced some of the programming highlights. The most exciting news about NYCC 2021 is that the Javits Center expansion will be open. The new wing will include more than 500,000 square feet of contiguous exhibition space, 5,000 seat theater, a rooftop farm, and we're told lots of restrooms, which Agent 70 would probably know if that's a good thing or not better than I would, given that he has gone to NYCC. I have not yet. That's the point.
Right. I mean, I'm a regular at NYCC. I do have a ticket for this year. I was able to secure a Sunday ticket. Believe it or not, they actually were able to release more tickets. I don't know if they had excess returns, or they just were able to allocate more tickets. It's unlikely that they allocated more tickets because of any sort of reduction or any sort of easing of pandemic restrictions. That's just not what's happening here in New York State. So, but ultimately, I think what they wanted to do, and what they're still trying to do, is sell out, which is what they've always done: sell out of tickets for every day, and that's really what their aim is. So, this is going to be, the same way last year was an off year for most cons. This year is going to be the same thing. It's going to be part of the transition, from the height of the pandemic to another height of the pandemic. Maybe we'll see, but ultimately, I'm willing to give New York Comic Con a shot just to see how it is. Observe what precautions people are taking. I'll be going on a Sunday this year, so I won't be there on Saturday. I don't plan on going for 2 days. I just think it's a lot for the pandemic precautions that we have to take. So ultimately, if you're looking to go and you're vaccinated, you're fully vaccinated so that you can get in, because you can't get in without it. 12, I think it's 12 years and under, for those who are not able to yet receive the vaccines. I think you have to have a clean COVID test, within the last, several days of, prior to entering into the con. So it's, they're very serious. They're going to be very serious about, who they let in.
By the way,
On top of making sure you have a legitimate badge.
right. By the way, shout out to I totally forgot until just a second ago that Dragon Con is going on this weekend, as it normally does on Labor Day weekend. So shout out to everybody who's there. There may be some news coming out of there that's not a whole lot of news comic related. Well, there's some that come out of Dragon Con, but not a whole lot. But maybe there'll be some in the coming days. Talk about next week.
Stuff.
Yes.
Titan to publish Cowboy Bebop companion books and comic books. Titan Publishing will live up to its name and will publish a wide variety of Cowboy Bebop books and comics. The press release reads, Titan Publishing is delighted to announce a new collaboration with Netflix to publish the official fiction, nonfiction, and comics for the eagerly anticipated upcoming live-action series, Cowboy Bebop, set to premiere on Netflix on November 19th, 2021. A prequel novel to be published in November 2021 will be followed by a beautiful coffee table art book detailing the making of the series in spring 2022. These will also be accompanied by an original comic book series featuring the characters from the show, which will debut in December 2021. Okay.
Interesting. Power Rangers tried to recruit the enigmatic Yellow Emissary for an upcoming war in issue number 11 preview. So they've been doing some not weird. They've been doing some things with those books. I haven't not caught up, so I have no idea what's going on with it. But an agent is storing within the Mighty Morphin multiverse, and it's up to the Omega Rangers to find the last of the Emissaries 3 and enlist them in their cause in September 15th, Power Rangers 11. There's a preview for the issue that is along with this article that you can check out in the show notes if you are so inclined. So basically, I guess they're trying to enlist somebody because there's some things going on. And
Next up, Magic the Gathering's upcoming set based on J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings books will be a complete, modern legal set of cards. The official title is now The Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth. The announcement was made Tuesday during the Magic Showcase 2021 streaming event. First revealed to investors in 2020, the Lord of the Rings set won't be available until sometime in 2023. It's part of the Universes Beyond initiative, which includes daring crossovers by Magic the Gathering with Warhammer 40,000, Fortnite, and Street Fighter. Like the previously released adventures in the Forgotten Realms, which brought iconic characters and locations from Dungeons and Dragons into the original Magic card game for the first time, it will be a full product line. That means players will be able to draft cards for pickup play and compete in multiplayer games with one of 4 pre-constructed commander decks. Making the game legal for modern also means that hobbits, elves, and urukai will be showing up in competitive circles for years to come. Okay.
So I don't have my glasses on, but let me know that for one quick second about this. Just a second. The whole Fortnite thing is kind of crazy. Street Fighter, that's kind of crazy. At least the D&D stuff makes sense in the realm of Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
Even the Lord of the Rings stuff, like, yeah, okay, that makes total sense in the realm of it. Fortnite and Street Fighter. I know there are some people who already said it was like, yeah, okay, Magic, granted, has been around for like 30 plus years, slightly jumping the shark with these crossover events. And I believe this is the Secret Lair, which is well, no, this is a crossover. Yeah, this is a crossover set, just like the current D&D one for next year. But there's also a Secret Lair set that's also coming with Lord of the Rings. I'm not gonna lie, I will probably get whatever the Street Fighter thing is, and I still hadn't seen that Magic Showcase yet, but I will check that out. The Lord of the Rings thing is kind of a cool, and I'm kind of curious to how that plays out. The Dungeons and Dragon thing so far has been actually kind of neat. I haven't really had the chance to build that far into it outside of seeing some of the mechanics and some stuff that's coming down along with the next. And
Okay.
also, I don't play Commander, so that's neither here nor there. But anyway, what you were saying?
No, I haven't got a bloody thing to say about this.
Next up, the Mandalorian video game footage reportedly leaking, and it looks amazing. So I hesitated about putting this one in because I kind of felt like there was nothing real about this, and while it is real, it's a real fan made demo. It was not a real game. So there was an update to the article saying that the footage that was seemingly from a real video game was from a fan made demo developed by a YouTuber, and I guess they made it out of Unreal Engine or whatever they used, but apparently it looked good enough to fool people into thinking that it was actually an actual Mandalorian video game that was being worked on by some actual developer publisher. Good stuff. I don't know if there's a link to it or anything, but well, yeah, there's a video about it, so you can check that out in the show notes if you so desire. Next.
Next up, Hasbro announces the next Transformers HasLab project, Victory Saber. Straight from the Fight Super Robot Lifeform Transformers Victory anime comes the next fan-funded creation. It's a massive new figure that will come to production only if enough backers support it before its campaign end date on October 10th of 2021. Okay, Victory Saber.
Yeah, so I did actually watch this Fan Friday thing that when it came out, and I'm like, yeah, it's a relatively big figure, and it's made up of multiple figures. And even though the images they had, and even the images and what they showed was like a first product field, and not necessarily the full thing, it looked pretty good. I don't know that much about this character outside of I figured it was from the Japanese version of Transformers. Which, by the way, I'm waiting for my set of the Transformers Japanese collection, which is the Japanese version of Transformers. So I can complete my set, almost complete my. There's some I'm not getting that later. Through that. Anyway, I'm probably not gonna.
I was
back
about
that.
to say I can also announce here that I did not back the Galactus.
Yeah.
I did not, because where on earth am I going to put this $400 Marvel Legends figure
Plus the figures it comes
on
with.
display? What's that?
Plus the figures that it's gonna come with, which from the stretch goals.
Right, because it hit all of its stretch goals at the last second, because that's just how it goes.
That's yeah.
But at the end of the day, I just couldn't pull the trigger. Just couldn't pull it. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, fair enough. Next up though, the Eternals
Next,
coming to. Got this? Or you sure?
wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You're up next.
Yeah. The Eternals are coming to Funko Pops. So, not surprisingly, the Eternals are getting Funko Pops ahead of the movie. You can choose from Icarus, Cersei, Athena, Gilgamesh with Glow Chase, Kingo, not Kinko's, Sprite, Druig, the people you expect to see from the Eternals, but also Dane Whitman, aka Black Knight. Although we won't be in Black Knight because it's movie version, and we don't know if he's gonna get that. But also coming is a jumbo 10-inch Arishem. So yes, if you're watching the video version, you can see the boxes and the figures themselves. And I believe this stuff is probably already on pre-order or coming. So yeah, if you're looking for some Eternals Funko Pops, they are coming for you. Next.
Next, Penny Parker swings into the battle realm on Marvel's Contest of Champions. Okay. Who doesn't want to pilot a robot consisting of okay. Marvel's Roddykat can take the story. Thank you.
So yeah, Penny Parker is, as some of you know, from a character that has been seen in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse more recently. Um, uh, she is now going to be coming to Marvel's Contest of Champion, which is Marvel's one of Marvel's mobile games that is still going. Um, and they got a little character breakdown and in this video that they share. Uh, and I guess she's coming to the game. She might already be in the game already. Or coming. So yeah, that's the gist of it. You know that character from Into the Spider-Verse, you can have her in the game now, or the Edge of Spider-Verse, the Spider-Verse stuff. Next up, want me to take this one, or you good? Okay. Shang-Chi and the Legend of Ten Rings, the album drops on September 3rd, which is as of this recording, actually. So the official motion picture soundtrack is executive produced by Sean Miyashiro and 88 Rising. I believe we have a track listed here. We do. And I believe this is also going to be out on. This is also out on Spotify and probably Apple Music, from what I saw. I do remember seeing a tweet from Simu Liu, saying like, "Hey, you seen the soundtrack in the premiere?" And I have no idea what he's talking about. So I was assuming that he was on one of the tracks or something, but I don't know what he's talking about in reference. Um, so I don't know if Agent 70, you know, maybe what he could have been talking about.
Nope.
Yeah. Yeah, see, he made some reference to the soundtrack and saw anything's information, but I don't see his name here on. Oh no, his name is on one of them. Okay, track 17, Hot Soup, is him and 88 Rising, so he is actually on the soundtrack. Now,
Okay.
I don't know if that comes out in the movie or if that's been played anywhere during the movie, but I guess you wouldn't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say you'll find out shortly.
Yeah. So there you go. I was like, because I was like, that was the only other reason I was like, that would make sense for him to even say anything about it like that.
Mm.
So okay, there you go. So yeah, you can check it out on Spotify and Apple Music, or buy it if you want to. I'm
Right.
gonna go ahead and take this next one from you also.
Okay.
Marvel Shang-Chi kicks his way into Fortnite. To celebrate the launch of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, Marvel's master of martial arts is joining Epic Games' Fortnite. Announced via an official blog post, players will be able to purchase the Shang-Chi outfit from Fortnite's item shop. The bundle itself includes the Shang-Chi skin, which closely resembles the character's comic book appearance rather than Simu Liu's iteration as seen in the MCU. Fans of the character will no doubt take note of his iconic red robe and gold. So yeah, Fortnite continuing to be what the hell is this game and having its own multiverse, as some folks is saying. Doing the most. Next up. I guess
It's just trying to no, I was going to say it's just trying to cross pollinate.
Pretty much. Yeah. But they got Street Fighter characters, DC characters. They're putting in freaking Mike Lowry from Bad Boys.
Mike Lowry.
Yeah, and a bunch of Marvel characters, including now Shang-Chi. This is kind of crazy.
Alrighty, next up, Marvel's Midnight Suns combat uses a card system but won't have loot boxes. Okay. So apparently this is since unveiling the tactics card battle system in Marvel's Midnight Suns, some players have expressed concerns there could be loot boxes in the game. However, the developers have confirmed that there are no loot boxes in Midnight Suns or any microtransactions involved with the card system. There will, however, be purely cosmetic skins that will be available for purchase, but these will not impact the balance of the game. Okay. Right over my head.
So sadly, microtransactions in video games has been has it been a standing thing for the last 5-10 years almost, I guess, point, and has no signs of going away. So when a game comes out, people instantly is like, oh, is it going to have microtransactions in certain ways? And in certain cases, people are like, well, it doesn't and should, which is real strange to me considering how much people grouse about them. It's good to know that this not going to be the case. Also worth noting that that was an update for the fact that there has been more information about this game coming out, including some gameplay footage, which you can see a gameplay trailer or some gameplay footage in the clickbait section of the show notes if you so wishing to look for some more of their games. And by the way, you should definitely check out the clickbait section because there's some other good stuff in there, including links to the 3 free comic book day offerings for this week. And also the what if Easter egg video that I point to, and that the aforementioned gameplay walkthrough trailer, and some other stuff. If you're watching the video, you can kind of see that part of the section. Anyway, this is relatively good news because there's no microtransaction. Next up, Daredevil isn't canceled, says Zdarsky, teasing something massive for Marvel coming soon. So apparently on August 16th, Marvel announced that the Chip Zdarsky and Marco Tichetto's Daredevil run will reach its climax in an explosive final issue in November 10th, Daredevil number 36. A week later, however, Zdarsky says, not so fast. Okay, so a Marvel Comics press release went out, and it's incendiary and got tongues wagging, Zdarsky wrote in his newsletter. Now, I've been around a long time, and so has you. My average in the old demographic, according to Zdarsky. So there's a bit of sales and marketing dance happening here. Zdarsky says that his Daredevil series is on pause after Daredevil 36 because there will be events and upcoming issues that kind of spiraled out of control. He goes on to say that he and Tichetto need to deal with it before they resume their work on the main Daredevil title. This could read as him hinting as a standalone limited series or one-shot, similar to Jason Aaron's Avengers run taking hiatus over the summer for the recent Heroes event, as this article speculates. We'll see what happens as that next.
All right, next up, these are mild spoilers for some stuff that happened in the Symbiote Spider-Man book. Apparently, some Asgardian magic cast by one Carnilla, the Norn Queen, caused Spider-Man to have a major power-up, making him strong enough to take on the Hulk, while also teasing the symbiote's future as Venom, because the Symbiote Spider-Man book, these series of miniseries by Peter David and Greg Land, harken back to the time when Peter Parker was, in fact, in possession of the Symbiote Spider-Man costume.
Huh. Interesting. Well, I'm looking at something else that is actually interesting that I'm going to put it thing. I know we got a lot of news already, but regardless, Magic co-stars in the Death of Doctor Strange trailer, which is weird. It's so weird that there are trailers for comic books. Anyway, piggybacking on the success of Doctor Strange's appearance in Spider-Man No Way Home trailer, the Marvel Comics has released its own trailer for the December 22nd debuting 5-issue limited series, The Death of Doctor Strange. Excuse me, writer Doctor Strange and artist Lee Garbett team up to reveal what Marvel calls the tragic fate of Marvel Universe's Sorcerer Supreme and the consequences his death will unleash. You can check out Newsarama's rundown of the candidates who plays Doctor Strange in this thing, including Magic, is seen prominently in the trailer. But you can also check out the trailer in the article in the show notes.
Next up, the X-Men and the Black Knight enter the Death of Doctor Strange event together. Dun, dun, dun. Two corners of the Marvel Universe collide with a third in the Death of Doctor Strange X-Men Black Knight #1 special. Okay, it's written by Cy Spurrier. They really want to push Dane Whitman to the forefront. So they're going to team him up with the X-Men.
Yeah, there's really been, and now obviously we know he's, Black Knight, Dane Whitman's going to be in externals, so we know that's why they're pushing now. But they've done this in the past, trying to push him.
Eternals, not externals.
Eternals, excuse me. Yes, you're right.
Because externals is something completely X-related.
Exactly.
But not what they're going to be putting on the screen.
Exactly. I stand corrected. But regardless of the fact, yes, they've been pushing Dane Whitman because of the Eternals, and like I said, this is not the first time they've actually pushed him, but there's an actual reason for it this time, I guess. It's still kind of weird, so. But that's what we got to look forward to. Next up, though, Inferno trailer shows why Mystique needs to burn the X-Men to the ground. Marvel Comics has revealed an official trailer for its upcoming X-Men spinoff title, Inferno, a 4-issue limited series that marks the end of writer Jonathan Hickman's time in Krakoa for the time being. Quote unquote, high stakes mutant drama. Inferno will provide the startling payoff to a long-running plot lines, including Zeke's quest to be reunited with Destiny, and the character Destiny, not video game or the concept. Startling shakeups to the Quiet Council, and the looming threat of Nimrod, Marvel said in an official press release. Quote unquote, alliances will be broken, secrets will be revealed, and the once bright future of mutantkind will be endangered like never before. Fans can get their first look at this revelatory saga in the all-new Inferno trailer featuring never-before-seen artwork. And if you so decide, you can check out that trailer because it's probably attached to this article. Yes, it is. Next up.
Where are we now? She-Hulk returns to her smashing ways in a new series. She-Hulk by Rainbow Rowell and Roge Antonio sees Jennifer Walters returning to her rage-spurred days after a friend from her past asks for help. So this is going to be in 2022. Apparently, yeah, the idea behind the book is that Jennifer Walters is attempting to put her raging days behind her, presumably because of what happens with the Winter Guard, as she returns to her law career. Once a friend from her past asks her to look into a mystery, however, Jennifer finds herself reverting back to her smashing and bashing ways. Okay.
Which partially assumes, if this picture is an indication, or that could be a mock-up, that she's also going to go back to her classic look. But that's only assumption, because we have nothing to really go on at this point.
Right. That's not much of a. I was about to say that's not much of a promo image, if it even is one. That could be a CBR image.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
But I feel like at a certain point they were going to go back to that anyway. I'm surprised they actually kept her this long the way she has been, and I guess coming out of this Winter Hulk thing, there's probably going to be something that comes out of it. Anyway, Conan gets drunk and goes dungeon crawling in Barbarian number 25, short from Dan Slott and Marcos Martin. So 300 issues of Conan celebrated, and okay, so I guess this is a preview page for one of the 4 stories in Conan the Barbarian 25, which I guess is a 300 issue anniversary, and the short's going to be by the creative team is Dan Slott and Marcos Martin. There you go. I haven't been reading none of that Conan stuff outside of Savage Adventures. Next up.
Earlier in the week, Marvel released the first details about 8 upcoming tentpole titles that they say will shape the future of the Marvel Universe in the months to come, including a number of projects that are evocative of what's going on in the TV and film projects. The series include events centering around the Fantastic Four and Daredevil, as well as stories that see the Avengers as a multiverse-hopping champions of reality. It's all kicked off by Timeless, a time travel story that centers on a threat presented by Kang the Conqueror, who is working his own way through the multiverse, presumably destined to cross paths with those same Avengers. Let's see. The solicitation text for the titles is below. I'm not going to read all of them because there's 8 of them, but there's some interesting items here.
So I was going to, I just noticed this and noticed that in there, because there is an article about one of them. I'll just go ahead and briefly throw this in there so I won't have to do it later. And this goes back to that Daredevil article from a little bit ago. And basically, this could possibly be what the article was hinting at, because there is the Kingpin declares all-out war in Devil's Reign event. And this is definitely by Chip Zdarsky and Marco Cicchetto. And it will see the Kingpin outlawing superheroes in New York and revealing intel on their secrets. So kind of familiar beats if you've been around comics for a little bit. So it sounds like the Thunderbolts are going to be back in action, and could very well be the thing that Zdarsky was. Moving right along though, because we won't go into the rest of them. But yeah, there was an infographic that I saw on about these 8 titles, but I don't see it attached to this article. So go figure. Anyway, Infinite Frontier reveals the origins of the new Black Lantern, and this is spoilers for Infinite Frontier number 5, from DC, of course. One of the biggest returns at the start of Infinite Frontier era was Roy Harper, with Green Arrow's original sidekick seemingly restored to life as the DC multiverse was reborn after the crossover event Dark Knight's Death Metal. As the comic book miniseries Infinite Frontier launched, Roy learned that his new lease on life was actually due to him being bonded to a Black Lantern ring, appearing undead whenever he tapped into its energies, and called away from Earth to serve a mysterious Dark Master. And as Roy confronted his twisted benefactors on Earth Omega, he learns more about the history behind the Power Ring and why he was targeted to become the Black Lantern. I believe Darkseid also has something to do with the whole thing. I haven't read any of it. So yeah, there's that. Next up,
DC taps Katie Kubert to lead the horror line, Fortnite, and Webtoon partnerships. A 3rd-generation comic creator is promoted to DC senior editor status. DC editor Katie Kubert was promoted to senior editor, Global Publishing Innovation, or Team Guppy, as some within DC refer to this group as. Kubert began at DC in 2009 as a pre-press coordinator and worked her way up to editor by 2014. She did move to Marvel for a few years and then went back to DC as editor in 2017 after relocating to California. Let's see here. Kubert is a 3rd-generation comics creator after her grandfather, the legendary Joe Kubert, and her uncles, creators Adam and Andy Kubert, and the cousin of creator Emma Kubert. Okay.
Nice. Gotham Knights gets a new motion poster ahead of DCFandome. So we already kind of talked about the fact that Gotham Knights video game, or one of the video games coming out of that's going to be shown in DCFandome was going to be shown there, and there's a motion poster here, which links to a Twitter account for Gotham Knights. Check it out in the show notes.
Next up, Comixology announces a new app and shutters the non-Amazon Comixology website.
Ooh.
Comixology CEO announced widespread changes to the digital comic company, including a new app and the shutting down of Comixology's external website. Let's see here. Comixology CEO David Steinberger released a letter revealing upcoming updates to the company over the course of the fall, including a new app and the shutting down, as I said earlier, of the company's external website as it becomes fully integrated into Amazon.com. The announcement, who's a sponsor of the show, by the way, the announcement of a new app comes with promises of much better filters and sorting capabilities, which have long been an area where Comixology has drawn some criticism from users. The most attention-getting part of the announcement, though, is that Comixology would cease to exist as a separate website. with the external website eventually redirecting to a new section of the Amazon website hosting the Comixology material. The letter even included a link so that you can preview what the new site will look like. Okay.
Yeah, if you're watching the video version, you just saw me scrolling through the link. I don't like it because you know, why can't Comixology just have its own like the way it was? Like all this is basically, hey, it's a page under the Amazon stuff, like you already know about. So I mean, there's nothing bad about it, but it's just like, why? Why? Just let it keep its own separate thing. We know you're owned by Amazon. Anyway, Jeff Lemire brings Black Hammer and his next graphic novel to Substract. Um, Writer artist Jeff Lemire has joined a growing number of comic creators to partner with online platform Substract to serialize new original comics ahead of their traditional debut by a paid subscription newsletter. Although for Lemire, it's more than that. Lemire plans to serialize two major projects: an original graphic novel called Fish Flies, and a new Black Hammer comic centered on the Colonel Weird character. I don't even know what to call it really. Newsletter seems much too limited for what I hope to do on this platform. My intention here is to create something akin to an online studio, a new platform to publish new comics, and a meeting place to share all my work in progress with you, and also offer lots of. I want to create a direct link between me and my readers. He continues. So this would be a place that I can share each step of my creative process with you, and a platform to actually create and publish comics. End quote. Okay, next up. Oh,
Alrighty.
so there's one more that I added to the last that I don't know if you see it.
Oh, you mean after this one?
Yeah.
Immortal Hulk?
Mhm.
Is this the last one or is
Yeah,
there
that's
one
it.
more?
That is absolutely it.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, Immortal Hulk's Al Ewing severs his relationship with artist Joe Bennett, over a reprehensible illustration. So, writer Al Ewing has publicly severed his relationship with Immortal Hulk artist Joe Bennett over a 2017 illustration Ewing called "Reprehensible." The Immortal Hulk scribe didn't link to the illustration by Bennett, though Ewing did describe what takes place. Quote, an armored swordsman, which he assumes represents Bolsonaro, given Joe's commentary, slaughtering tiny scurrying people with the buck teeth and ears of rats. Ewing wrote, and big noses. One of them is cosplaying Dracula. Ewing also called out the anti Semitic caricatures in the art, which has an undeniable political agenda. Quote, Al Ewing assumes these are political enemies of some kind, but even if not, the tropes are apparent. He said human beings as vermin being exterminated, even if it's no longer up that it was drawn in the first place, signed, and so proudly displayed by Joe, speaks volumes. Ewing stated that this isn't the first time he's been made aware of issues with Bennett, a reference, of course, to the controversy that flared up when a panel was published in Immortal Hulk number 43 that included anti Semitic imagery. At the time, Bennett expressed remorse over the artwork, calling it wrong, offensive, and hurtful in many ways, although he also claimed it was an honest but terrible mistake. The writer, Al Ewing, said he's spoken to Marvel behind the scenes, though he recognizes that that's no comfort to people at the sharp end of this kind of brutal propaganda. To show his commitment to an apology, Ewing shared screenshots of donations he made to Rainbow Railroad and the Rainforest Trust. The Rainbow Railroad donation was in the sum of $2,575 with the Rainforest Trust donation totaling 2,000 UK pounds. He ended his Twitter thread by stating he will not be working with Bennett again. Okay.
Yeah. Mortal Kombat's about to come to an end very soon, so there you go with that.
Right. And this story was written by lead news editor at CBR, our very own Tim Dog 98.
Which is not the reason why I pulled this article, but thought it was interesting. Then probably needs to come up sooner or later. Because yeah, and we talked about when that first image showed up in that issue of Mortal Hulk some time ago. So it's weird that Joe Bennett would shoot himself in the foot again, or probably not surprising if you about him. I don't know the dude. But that's real stupid. Really stupid.
And what's wild is that he's been in the game for a while.
Right.
He has done art for a while, so it's
Mhm.
kind of this is a middle-aged dude. He's 53 years old. You would think that he would know better, but apparently not.
Apparently. But that is the end of the news for tonight, folks. We are going to get into one last ad read.
Our last ad read of the night is for Funko, Fun at First Sight, your home for exclusive collectibles such as their world-famous pop vinyl bobbleheads, apparel including t-shirts, hats, and socks, and brand merchandise such as their custom DIY pop figures, art books, and skateboards. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy 10% off your entire purchase when shopping at Funko. To place your first order with 10% off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcasts free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Funko link and place your order. When you get to the checkout, put in the offer code SHOP10, SHOP10 for your 10% off discount. Funko through cspn.us. Do it today.
And as we come to an end of another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles, we appreciate each and every one of you folks for coming out. I hope that all of you have a good and restful Labor Day weekend. Have some fun, have some barbecue or whatever goes on in your Labor Day weekend plans. Be safe out there, stay masked up, all that kind of good stuff. Maybe go see Shang-Chi if you feel so inclined. And masked up.
Shang-Chi.
Yes, what he said. Every time I know that, but I keep slipping back
I
into
know
it.
it's habit. Trust me,
Yeah.
I think I did it the last time. So
Yeah. So, but we do know the actual pronunciation of Shang-Chi's. But yes, that being said, like I said, have a great weekend. I'm kind of skipping ahead a little bit, but let me go back and say that I have been Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat. You can find me at News Nerds, Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram. Oh, thank you, Sarayu. You can find Agent underscore 70 on Twitter and Instagram under that. PC underscore dirt on Twitter, Pop Culture Net on Twitter, popculturenetwork.com, and all those umbrella sites they're in. Also probably still bite under Comic Book Reviews No Vowels. Have no idea. I said I was gonna stop doing that, but what? Tim DOGG98, the Osiris of this ish. You can find him at Tim DOGG98 on Twitter. You can find him at The Click Nation on Twitter. That's VKLIQNATION, all one word. You can also find him at CB Chron, which is the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account. You can also, of course, find Tim, as we have just stated a little bit ago, at Comic Book Resources, CBR.com, where he's over there writing his face off. You can find this here podcast on the Cold Slither Podcast Network, that's cspn.us.
do it today.
I've been going back through the archives there was a point for me to do it, but I've just been going back through the archives on the site for a reason or two, and you should probably check it out sometime. Check out some old episodes if you are so inclined. It gets amusing here and there.
I'm
But yeah,
sure we were not as well produced as we are now.
that is true, but it was still fun. So, and also it wasn't just the two of us; there was four of us
Right.
times. So there's that. But again, you can also find us on your podcast provider place of choice. That whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coastal of the Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. You can also find us recording live, normally every Thursday night, with the exception of tonight, on the Click Nation's YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/theclicknation, and also twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles, where apparently we got another we had some folks in the chat. Thank you, Sarayu, for showing up as always. You're always great to see you. And we got a couple of new follows, or at least one or two new follows. So shout out to that.
Onward and upward.
Absolutely.
Thank you for following. Remember to hit like, subscribe, and click the notification button as well. Thank you.
Indeed. As a friend of mine would say, tell your friends, tell your barista, tell your mama's uncles, tell you that comic book person, that comic book guy that you don't like, but you know who'd probably be interested, and all that kind of good stuff. Again, next week we'll be back, same bat time, same bat channel. Probably with more of a discussion on Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, as I will hopefully have seen it by that time. And until that point, this has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. One. Wakanda forever!